What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Blitz City Podcast, where, as promised, I told y'all we was going to be starting FBS Fridays because as much as we love HBCU football, as much as we love FCS football, we love Power 5 football too. We love football at all levels, so I wanted to talk about it. But I couldn't do it by myself. I had to bring some guys who are scholars of the game. You might as well say, man, their knowledge is infinite, so we got my boy Blue from the Blue Bloods podcast. We got my guy Coach I from the Fanatic Sports podcast, and then we got a very special guest of mine, my guy, a guy who knows football on such a high level, man. My guy Clay McCarter. Y'all, what's going on, man?
What's going on? Thank you, sir.
What's good, man?
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us, bro.
I'm happy y'all here. So listen, the first thing I want to talk about is some suspension, some little drama that happened in college football recently. So the first one was the indefinite suspension of the Michigan State players. We all saw the video. Those guys I can't even call it a fight. They jumped him, in the tunnel, and then, they got suspended indefinitely. So I wanted to ask y'all opinions on it, right? Was the punishment too harsh, or was it just right?
I personally think
I wasn't going to say that. I want to hear the coach go first because I like to hear the coach's aspect before myself or anybody else.
I guess this is the thing, man. A lot of times with these situations, now, granted, the video is harsh. Like if you just go by the 30 to 45 seconds that we see, then I don't think it's too harsh. But I do not know what led to that thing. You know what I'm saying? First of all, how did the Michigan player end up by himself with a whole bunch of Michigan State players?
Right.
I need to know what was said, But just looking at what was available to the public, I ain't gonna say it was too harsh, man, because you gotta. Like, bro, that's like, you could really damage somebody, dog. Like, not from that, man. I grew up in the hood, man, and you jump somebody like that, you got on cleats. I don't care if they got on pads, dog. Like, you can really hurt somebody like that, dog. You know what I'm saying? So, I ain't gonna say it was too harsh. I'm not gonna say that's what I would have did. I know how it is in big college football. Power 5, man, it's about perception. So, if they didn't take that step, you know how much blowback they would have had, you know what I'm saying? Right. Especially with Michigan. Michigan got one of the biggest fan bases in college football. Alumni base, people putting in money, it would have been a big uproar if they didn't take those steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this last night on another show I was on. On one, I think multiple things can be true at once. One, 18 to 22-year-olds hyped up on adrenaline make life-changing mistakes sometimes, and they shouldn't be defined by that by the end of their career. But at the same time, you have to look at it as if that was your son getting stomped with cleats, getting hit over the head with helmets, and by himself, getting jumped by however many people, you'd be feeling extremely ready to go.
100%.
Let's just put it like that. So
100%.
I think the indefinite suspension is probably for the rest of the year good. And the people who still have eligibility, they should get another shot next year. And I think there was one guy who has the NFL draft grade. He's going to have to answer for it at the combine and interviews.
Facts.
But I'm hoping that he still gets his opportunity. We've seen the Ndamukong Suh. We've seen countless other guys make certain mistakes on the field, hyped up on adrenaline, and they've had other chances. I hope that it doesn't follow them, but they are going to have to be apologetic. I know Michigan is pursuing legal charges, which they have the right to, because, I mean, listen, like Coach said, you step on a kid the wrong way in their face with cleats and get hit in the wrong spot with a helmet, it could have been a wrap for that kid. Right. And in the comments, Blunt too from Oregon socking the Boise State player after the game. He got another shot. But for me too, I understand people say tradition. The big house was built in the however long ago. You have enough money, you have enough funding to build a second tunnel. There is no reason two teams should be using the same tunnel because all it takes is for one kid to take one wrong step and end up, like Coach said, by himself in a situation where you have a team who just got beat, and they got beat pretty handily. They're hyped up on emotions. The kid says one thing, y'all suck, and then what just had happened. So one, you got to have either more security in the tunnel to make sure the teams are separated, or do like a cool off period. The losing team goes in first, the winning team stays on the field to celebrate, see their family, etc. Clear the tunnel, then the other team goes.
That's a good idea.
I really do think yeah, some blame falls on Michigan, but it's 2022. There's high schools that have more than one tunnel to locker rooms.
Facts.
You have to take more. Y'all have to take more precautions moving forward to protect your student athletes, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Clay, what you got?
You know, I think picking up on the point, like what I was saying originally when the question was first asked, I wanted to hear the coach's perspective, and then what Blue just got to understand, man, he touched it on bases that I wasn't even necessarily thinking of, and I didn't get into that much depth and detail of using players like Blunt and other people who have made hiccups and mistakes. And what you were saying right when it started getting talked about after Coach kind of put his perspective, it reminded me of that excerpt from Nick Saban. Nick Saban, there's a very, very well circulated video on Instagram, Facebook. It talks about Nick Saban on how he says, you know, he's 19. He makes one mistake, and you want me to kick him off the field? You want me to kick him off the team? You want me to kick him out of a university where he's getting a degree? He's getting an education. You don't know where his upbringing is. He could be going back to the streets. He could be going back to a terrible background with a home life. And I understand it from both aspects. Now, do I agree with the Michigan side of the suspensions compared to the Texas A&M suspensions? It's a different level. Do I agree that, number one, how are we in 2022? We have people who are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. We have amazing technology. We have all these things. And we dumb it down. You're telling me that a school as prestigious as Michigan State or Michigan, regardless of the program's richness, we're talking about two teams that are cemented into certain aspects of Hall of Fame. I mean, they have Michigan State's basketball program. Michigan has a basketball program. They're both competent football teams. They tend to beat each other in the craziest of stages, and they're always thrilling games. I understand the rivalry, but to beat on somebody and like these sucker punches, like whatever, okay, some of those things happen. It's 18, 20-year-old adrenaline rushes, but to beat on somebody like that, man, and the school to do the indefinite suspension, yes, I got to see it from both sides. I see it from the business side and the university side. I see it from the coaching side. Those guys they got to think about some things. You don't, regardless of not whatever the tunnel situation is, you don't sit there and you don't whoop on somebody like that. If that's the case, why is my man by himself?
Yeah, and I didn't even know till Blue said it. I did not know they only had one tunnel. Like, I just assumed, they was doing that for convenience at the time. And I guess, I coached high school ball, so I compare it to that. Like, when we talking Power 5, we know money comes into play. But I'm going to tell you right now, during high school ball, that happens. Those kids that did that to that one kid, they go to jail that night. Like,
bingo.
In Greenville, South Carolina, you go to jail. Now, whether or not the charges stick or not, but you go to jail that night for basically somewhat, I don't know what the actual term is. It's like lynching. That's what it is here in South Carolina. Like, if 4 or 5 guys are beating up on one guy like that, and then they go to jail. Like, so, I mean,
you know that from high school.
Yeah, I mean, that's just that's what I'm saying. So it's like,
or getting arrested,
and I don't think you should ruin kids' life for one mistake. No, I don't. But you got to pay some kind of price. That's why I say the indefinite suspension. I think it's going to be kind of like what Blue said. They probably be suspended the rest of the year, and those that have eligibility can come back the next season, which I think is totally fair. Because, like I said, if they was high school kids, or if they was just if us four right now went out to a football game and in the parking lot somebody said something stupid to us and all 4 of us start wailing on him, we would all go to jail. Like that
especially
night.
With weapons, because those helmets are considered deadly weapons. Like if I took a baseball bat out the back of a truck and started whacking somebody, bro, I'm going to jail. No questions.
So that's why I think the indefinite suspension, like I say, from the video that we saw, I don't know if there could be more footage and the Michigan dude was out there doing some craziness and I don't know, and he got caught up. So, but from what we saw, like I say, I think, like Blue said, I think they'll get a chance to play those with eligibility. And that guy that's going to the NFL, he should have thought about that, because you're right, he is going to have to answer that question. And he probably, I don't know how good he is, but he could have cost himself a couple of million by dropping a couple of spots or a round or two just because of that.
Yep. And the next suspension I wanted to talk about, actually, I know Clay brought it up. Texas A&M, those freshmen from that amazing recruiting class that Texas A&M just brought in. You're caught smoking weed in the locker room. I didn't know it was in the locker room.
Yeah,
in the locker room during an away game, and you somehow figure you're not going to get caught. Like, I don't. What are your thoughts on? Like, what are your thoughts on the suspension? Is that too harsh? Is that just right? I know it's stupid.
Listen,
it was very stupid on their part, but
that comes
I'm
from
gonna be
thing. And I think Coach, you'll agree with me. That is culture, and that is coaching.
Right.
Facts.
From those
All
being young
facts.
players and what young people are going to do. Everybody's done stupid things. They knew it was stupid. They've obviously done it before.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody understands that. Some people can do certain things in the locker room. Everybody has their pregame rituals. You know, even on the high school level, which is crazy to talk about and think about. Some people might drink a beer or something before a game. As a coach, you've ran into that. I mean, depending on where you are down south.
You hit it. You hit it. They knew they could get away with it when it come to their coaching staff. They wasn't even 18 to 20. They wasn't even thinking about we in the visitor locker room. They just think about is coach gonna get on me? And they've apparently done some things and gotten away with it under that current coaching regime because my players, if they was gonna do something, they would all the way be like Mission Impossible trying to hide it. They not doing it where there's even a slick you got to be a detective to find out. But these dudes was just in a visitors locker room, just blazing up like.
And the thing, I don't want to stop you in the middle of talking, but think about you said visitor locker room. Think about traveling.
Right.
Everyone's planned this. If you showed up and you didn't travel on the plane, because if you fly with weed, you got to be crazy,
bro. Exactly.
You got to another town and you made it before the game, bro. If y'all took the bus, I get it. It's the bus.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I might have suspended them kids. If I was a coach, I'd probably suspend them kids just for stupidity.
I'm about to say they might have to go home.
Keep playing with this weed.
Because this is the thing, like, you know, I don't know what the laws is in that state or whatever, but if this is the thing, some of them might, 18-year-olds they technically legal, but the coach is responsible for them. So if they get caught by the law, again, as a coach, you have to think about all this stuff. If they get caught by the law, the coach gets caught by the law. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, now I got the answer for why my kids got weed on the plane coming to the game. Like, it's like, come on, bro. Like I say, for being stupid, you definitely get suspended.
I want to hear this because you get an answer to that.
I'm about to say there's multiple levels to this, right? Because let's start with the most serious before we get to the absolute butt of the joke, which is smoking weed in the locker room. Because I mean, I've played on high school teams. Man, I would be scared. Like, I wouldn't even be worried about my coach. Bro, if I got a full ride to college and my mom found out I was smoking weed, dude, I'm talking about I would come on the stream in one of those like casts. I'd have to roll next to me, neck brace, everything. She would beat me to death. But anyway, but Kobe, you remember what was the D2 team, the women's team that got pulled over in Georgia and they searched them for weed?
Yeah,
last year.
I forget that school's name, but I remember.
Yeah, what happens? What happens if they just do a random search and find all the drugs with the team? Like, how many people's lives are man, it's a selfish act. Right. And I do agree with Coach. This is a coaching issue, and this doesn't just stem from Jimbo at A&M because he's had character issues at A&M. Let's not forget the reason his Florida State tenure turned sour real fast is because he had no sense of control of a program. And it's something that I can't put my finger on because when you look at the Nick Saban coaching tree, all the coaches, like when you come from like a Saban coaching tree, Saban has his thumb on that program. Someone doesn't sneeze in the building without Saban knowing.
Mm-hmm. Except for Jimbo. He's like the outlier, like he's like the black sheep of the family or something. I don't know because you're right. Kirby knows everything. Even when kids get in trouble, Kirby knows everything that's going on.
This is why Texas A&M isn't successful. It's not because they don't have talent. It's not because the coaches don't know X's and O's. It's not because the scheme isn't right. It's because they don't have any discipline. They don't have any sense of team camaraderie. They're selfish. They play for themselves, and it's all like the kid who was going like 100 miles an hour in the parking deck with his brand new car could have absolutely murdered somebody. Right. And he's on Instagram Live driving his car 100 miles an hour in a parking deck.
Stupid.
Bro, what are you doing?
Wow, man.
What are you doing? Like this is just like a lack of institutional control that has followed Jimbo his whole head coaching career and even his offensive coordinator career. And this is why I personally don't think Jimbo Fisher will ever be a great head coach anywhere else. He's not going to win a national championship again because every time he gets great players, he allows them to go off the rails and kids' lives are ruined because they don't. Because at the end of the day, it's stupid. You shouldn't smoke weed in the locker room, but we're still talking about 18-year-old kids who still need some sort of guidance or some sort of role model to look up to. And right now they don't have that at Texas A&M. And you're seeing, I mean, how many 5-stars have been suspended in the past 18 months at A&M? Like 8 or 9?
That's
more.
See, I'm gonna tell you this as a coach and a parent, man. Like if I see that going on, I know Texas A&M got that oil money and NIL is all just falling out of the sky over there. But as a parent and a coach, man, you gonna tell me I'm gonna send my child under your care for 3 years? Like you supposed to be showing him how to be a man. Like nah, bro. I just take the less NIL check and go somewhere where at least I know somebody gonna care about him because apparently you don't.
Yep.
Right. All right, so y'all, let's talk about the Heisman race, right? And because things are they ain't nothing certain. Nobody's a guaranteed lock for it yet. All right, but from what I've looked at, this is how the race is playing out so far. With Hendon Hooker from Tennessee at number 1, C.J. Stroud at number 2, Bryce Young at number 3, Caleb Williams at number 4, and then in 5th place, Blake Corum and Drake May are tied at number 5. At 5. So, would you guys agree or you disagree? Should somebody be higher? Should somebody be lower? What's your feelings on that?
Bryce Young should be lower.
You a hater. Why are you hating on Bryce Young?
You can't miss a game. You can't miss a game and then just expect to keep a top 3 spot.
That's a good point.
And I'm sorry, you can't miss a whole game or really 2 because he missed early in that Arkansas game.
Yeah, he did.
2, if I'm not mistaken. He went out in the first half.
Yeah. I think
he's missed almost 2 games. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, in my opinion, I think Drake May should be a little bit higher. I know people look at that loss that UNC has early in the season. That is a bad loss. Don't get me wrong. But when you're looking at how he's carried UNC. If he doesn't score 50 points in a game, they lose every single game on that schedule. And if they get to the ACC championship, which is extremely likely as you look at the ACC standings right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they win tomorrow, they're locked in. If he goes to the ACC championship and beats Clemson and has UNC competing up there for a New Year's 6, a potential playoff spot, man, we got to put some respect on Drake May's name, especially when he's stepping in for Sam Howell, who is one of the more accomplished quarterbacks UNC has had in a while. Man, I think Drake May deserves a little bit more respect than we're giving him, man, because he's had an outrageous season for his first ever time starting in college football.
Yeah, I definitely think Drake May is doing it. Now I got two viewpoints, like who I think is gonna win it according to how it goes, or who I think is the best player. Like who I think is gonna win it, C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud's gonna win it because he was. I want to say he finished number 2 last year, and I know Hendon Hooker is hot right now. But if y'all watched any of my videos, y'all already know I'm picking the Dogs to cover tomorrow. So that's going to take Hendon Hooker out of
we going to get to that for sure. We going to get to that.
So, and Bryce Young, you got a good point. He missed the game, but I'm going to tell you how they think. Sometimes they be like, well, he was hurt, so we ain't going to count out for it, that type deal. Caleb Williams is having a Caleb Williams type season, but I don't know. I think Drake May actually should be over Caleb and Bryce because of the game. I think Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten, and they vote on it right after the championship weekend. So I think that's how I see it. Now, I think the best player in college football is Bryce Young, but because
I'm with you. No, don't get me wrong. I'm with you. I just if we're being fair across the board, and also the X factor is. And I know you said you're picking the Dogs, but I will say if Hooker goes into Athens, because I've been there. I've been to games in Athens, man. I've been there when that is one of the loudest stadiums I've ever been to in my entire life. And I've been to all the SEC stadiums. If he goes into Athens and beats this Georgia team and puts up 200-300 yards passing, no turnovers, they should give him the Heisman at the 50 in Athens.
He'd have to lose to Missouri the next week to lose that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I agree with both points. Personally, just because, media side of it, Are they going to let Bryce win back-to-back Heismans? Let's think about that.
That's why I didn't. That's another reason why I think they want to keep Archie Griffin.
Player in the country? Without a shadow of a doubt. Do I think the second best player in the country is also his teammate? Without a shadow of a doubt. But man, I got CJ. I think is the Heisman favorite in my opinion. I think if we take the Bama game against Tennessee, which I think Tennessee's a great football team. They have the best O-line in the country. Hendon Hooker is an absolute savage. Defense gets it done. That receiver they have, man, he's special. Wyatt.
Hyatt. Yep.
Hyatt, excuse me.
Yeah.
He from South Carolina. He didn't get no offer from Clemson or South Carolina.
I got Bryce at 3. I got Drake at 4, actually. I was going to touch on that because I got a guy I work with who's a big UNC fan. I'm definitely going to be showing him this at work at some point because he'll appreciate it. I think Caleb Williams is special. I got him at 5. Bo Nix at plus 2,500 to win it right now for Oregon. I think he's starting to get it together. Wasn't a big fan of him at Auburn. He's kind of floating around there. You got Blake Corum kind of in the mix with the same odds as Caleb. I think if you played that Tennessee Bama game, let's play it 10 times, right? That's the worst performance I think any of us have seen Nick Saban have a football team perform in penalty category. I think they even showed that it was a problem.
Yeah, it was the most under him all time.
I get that there is a home field advantage for Tennessee in that game. Neyland's is crazy. I was born in Kentucky. I got volunteer side of the family. I got Wildcat side of the family. I'm obviously a Gator fan. I got family at Florida State. Tennessee's special. I'll give it to him. It's definitely special. Being that talented on both sides of the ball and having a guy like Hooker is crazy. But, man, I think you play that Bama game 10 times and Bama plays Bama football, I think Bama wins probably 7 or 8 out of the 10 times. Do I think that they caught him? Yeah. They played a good game, but Bama played a bad game. I think Tennessee really hasn't been truly tested. They beat Florida by 4 points. Anthony Richardson had 500 total yards of offense against them. And he's a raw talent. I don't think that he's in some top 5 quarterback talk, but you beat us by 4. You took Pittsburgh to overtime. Pittsburgh. Their running back is special, but it's Pittsburgh at overtime. You won by 7 points. Do I think they're a good football team? Yes. On paper, not. I mean, on paper, yeah, they have the best O-line, but I mean, seriously, I think that the topic would be different for the Heisman race had that Bama game gone the way that I think that 90% of the country thinks it should have went. Bama should have won that game. Bryce Harper is sitting there pretty as a top 4 playoff team and arguably still top 3 in the country, and he's smooth sailing from there. He gets ready to perform against LSU. He wins the LSU game. Cat's in the bag. Go ahead and bake the cake, call Lil Debbie, and let's ride.
Yeah.
That's how I
All right. Also, when it comes to top 5, right, in the quarterback position, Mel Kiper released his top 5 for his big board, right? And I seen it. I don't really agree with a certain part of it, and I'll get to that. But the way it goes is C.J. Stroud at number 1, right? 29 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the season. Will Levis from Kentucky at number 2, which I don't think that man is like that. That's just me. I'm not a fan of him. All right, but Bryce Young at number 3, Anthony Richardson at number 4, and then Hendon Hooker at number 5. Agree or disagree? Like, let me know your opinion.
Throw the whole list away. Throw it all away.
I think C.J. Stroud. I think because of what he's done, I think C.J. Stroud is definitely number 1 in this list. Now, the history of Ohio State quarterbacks in the league isn't helping him, but I think he's gonna get. I think he's gonna get drafted first out of this list. I do not think Anthony Richardson is going to go before Hendon Hooker. For 1, for 2, I think Anthony Richardson's coming back another year. Hendon Hooker, I could see them. I can see the analysts saying he's a system quarterback because when he was at Virginia Tech, he was absolute booty. And then he got under Josh Heupel. Josh Heupel's a great offensive mind, and now he's looking like again a system quarterback. Like some of those Mike Leach, Texas Tech quarterbacks or Washington State quarterbacks who never got drafted, throw for 1 billion yards. Bryce Young, I think they're going to question his frailty. Kyler Murray is short, but he's thick. Bryce Young is short and just small. and which is a reason why he doesn't run a lot, because he's an intelligent guy. He's like, I'm not going to get hit unless I have to. Will Levis, I think he has some physical tools. I just don't think, I don't know. He ain't showed a lot of game film. Let's just say that. But they've been hyping Will Levis up since last year. So I think C.J. Stroud out of this list is easily number one, and Bryce Young should probably be two. But like I said, I think that's what they're going to look at. They're going to look at, because I think Bryce Young is like right at 6 foot, maybe, and he like 160 pounds, 165 pounds. That's different when you're the quarterback, dog. Wide receivers can do that, but that's different when you're the quarterback.
I just don't understand. Like, okay, I get it. I get the upside. But, man, when are we going to just be like, listen, man, maybe Anthony Richardson is an amazing athlete, but the dude on some nights can't hit the broadside of a barn if he was like 5 feet away. Like, that dude's accuracy is just – I mean, I've seen games where, like, I bought into Florida. After that Utah win, I was like, damn, this team might be really good, man. Anthony Richardson's it. Then they go out, and, I mean, he puts like 20% of his passes the next – like, it is just so up and down. Like, I don't understand how you can look at him as the top 10 quarterback in the draft right now.
Well,
where is he starting in the NFL?
Going back to what Coach said, he's coming back another year. It's unless he declares for it. I think probably the majority of the people think that he can't sit there and look at a game film from games that he had. His first start in his entire career, he goes in and has to play Georgia after his head coach gets fired. He makes a second start, and it's kind of that's it. You know, he fluke bowl game, whatever. Battled a little bit of injuries over the offseason, man. He kind of was recovering, you know, that knee thing that kind of happened, and there was kind of a little bit of worry if there's some structural damage or something. But, going back to what it is, I will say that I agree that his accuracy is definitely in question. I think that some more film for him would definitely benefit him in the draft aspect. But going to the top 5 kind of prospect list, I think that, you know, the honorable mentions are, you know, the Van Dyke saga is kind of happening. I think a lot of people talk about film-wise, is he going to be a combine killer? I had higher expectations.
I think so.
Miami, which was difficult for me because, I mean, I'm not – it's kind of another low-key rivalry, ACC kind of thing. Them and Florida State for the, like, you know, Battle of the State, which is big recruiting part of the world. Drake May's solid, man. You touched on that. Saying that Drake May deserves a lot of respect, man. He does have to score a lot. But I think C.J. Stroud, like you said, Coach, is definitely, you know, on this list of, you know, for the draft itself. I think he's mobile. I think he's got the intangibles of the size. Like you said, Kyler's a thick dude and he's short. Bryce he's a little more frail, man. He's a little bit more finesse with it on the you know, like skinnier side. Will Levis, man. I think that Will Levis is – I don't know. I never kind of understood the hype. I got friends who are Giants fans, and they're like, man, I pray to God we don't get him. And then, boom, they're 6-2. It's like, all right, they don't have those troubles no more. But Hendon Hooker should definitely go before AR. I think AR stays another year, so that makes another case for the Van Dyke, Drake May. And then, you know, those other guys, they're going to come kind of end of the season. They're talking about, all right, this guy's at this school, but he's putting up numbers. The Malik Willis's, Josh Allen. Josh Allen killed the combine.
Yeah, but Josh Allen, he can actually throw, though.
The name from the group of 5 for me that I've been on since he started as a freshman, man. I think he's been a top 5 quarterback for 3 years, and that's Grayson McCall at Coastal Carolina. That kid is a pro. He is a pro. I mean,
I was going to talk about his coach at some point tonight, actually.
Yeah, I mean, this year so far, 21 touchdowns, only 1 pick. He's thrown 25 plus touchdowns for 3 straight seasons, never thrown more than 3 interceptions, and has never completed less than 68% of his passes. And he has the prototypical size. He's mobile. To me, man, Grayson McCall is a no-brainer first-round talent for me, man. The kid's composure is just unbelievable, man. Anyone who hasn't watched his film, I tell you, man, spend some time this weekend, go watch it, go watch some of his games, because to me, that kid is legit, and I think he has what it takes to get to the next level.
I think he'll be solid. I think it's going to depend on what offensive system he gets in. If he gets in one of these systems that hasn't, like if he gets in a Kansas City system, then he'll flourish. But if he gets in one of these systems that's still kind of Atlanta, that's still kind of lingering behind, I don't think that's good for him. Kobe, if you don't mind, I want to answer one of the questions that's in the comments.
Go ahead, because I was looking at it and I'm like,
Jeremiah Clark,
go
shout
ahead.
out to him, man, because I meant to bring this up in the Heisman talk, but he asked if Shedeur is better than Anthony Richardson. At quarterback, absolutely, he is. At quarterback, yes, he is. Actually, I think Shedeur should. I don't think he should win it, but I think he should get an invite out to New York, because if you look at his stats, man, the dude's like over 2,500 yards passing with like almost 30 touchdowns and less than like 5 picks or something. It's bananas. Like if he was playing Power 5, he would definitely get an invite to New York. I ain't saying he should win it, but if I'm talking about quarterback, now if I'm talking about athlete, then Anthony Richardson. But if I'm talking about quarterback, then yes, Shedeur is better than Anthony Richardson.
Agreed. I just don't agree with the Heisman, but we'll let that. Man,
Hey,
he's not
listen.
even he's not even a top 3 candidate for the Walter Payton, which is the Heisman
I know.
of the FCS.
I know. I'm just saying that, like, if you look at his stats, if you look at a lot of times it's what ESPN and the rest of the media people put out. Because if you look at his stats compared to CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, and listen, the dude putting up the numbers. That's what I'm saying. I mean, hell, Stetson don't get no love, and he has a better QBR than all these dudes. So,
man, I wish more ESPN people watch FCS football. Man, RG3 consistently just throwing names out there, no research whatsoever. Jesus Christ, that dude aggravates me to death.
Oh my god!
I feel like sometimes he just picks 5 names out of a hat. Yeah, he just picks 5 names out of a hat and it makes a TikTok, bro. Like every week.
Oh my god! Like, what about the Lindsey kid from UIW?
Man, Lindsey Scott right now has completed 73% of his passes for almost 3,100 yards, 38 passing touchdowns, and 6 rushing, and thrown almost 50 less passes than Shedeur. Yeah.
See, that's big time. That's big time. That's some old Steve McNair type stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? But you win the Heisman too because of hype. Like I say, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young and even Will Levis came into the year with hype. So all they have to do is sustain the hype. They don't have to gain it. Like, you know, the guys nobody's talking about Max Duggan from TCU. This dude is absolutely balling. Absolutely balling. They can score on anybody, anytime, anywhere. But nobody's talking about the dude. Nobody's talking about, like you say, Grayson, because it's like 2 years ago, Grayson was, you know, the cheese of the town. But now it's like, since they didn't make the playoffs that 1 year, it's like, you know, as the group of 5 representative, nobody remembers that Grayson McCall can play quarterback, you know?
Bo Nix. They remember that Auburn days, and they're like, don't talk to me about Bo Nix in the Heisman race. Even though he's putting up the stats. Like, I'm an Auburn alum, so I want to throw up saying it, but he's there.
Don't get me started on Bo Nix. He's talking about they think they can beat the Dogs now. Like, stop it, Bo. You saying that because you know you won't have to face the Dogs. Oh God! No,
hey, shout out to my lovely lady in the comment section. Thank you so. I don't know who. You clearly playing a joke. I don't know who Jakiri Giovanni is, but thank you so much, man. All right, so the college football playoff rankings came out. A lot of people had something to say. You know, even Coach 30 made a video on it, which was hilarious, by the way. Shout out to Coach 30. Tennessee number 1, Ohio State number 2, Georgia number 3, Clemson number 4, with Michigan and Alabama being the first 2 out. How do y'all feel about that?
I don't think I can see it. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee, like I say, you got to think, man, they come out, it's like, who's riding hot? It's the snapshot of the moment. Everybody, they just waxed Kentucky, by the way. I mean, not to mention Kentucky normally plays them pretty tough. They played them pretty tough last year, 45-42. Tennessee came out on the win, but they beat Alabama on the national stage. Everybody that watches college football was watching that game. They was watching Jalen Hyatt score 5 touchdowns on – and, you know, Bama's known for defense, even though people that really watch football know that Bama's defense ain't like that this year. But that's what it is. And then Ohio State, you can't deny them. They ain't played nobody. But, I mean, come on, man. They got like 7 first-rounders on that offense, man. I mean, like, how you going to deny it? And then Georgia had 2 weeks where they struggled against, you know, Kent State and Missouri. They didn't look too good. So I can see why they put them there. Clemson has probably the best resume out of all 4 of them, to be honest with you. I mean, if you're talking about when you played them, when Clemson played them, they actually beat 3 of the teams that's still in the top 25 right now. So I don't think those teams are that good, but they did it.
Can I touch on what you just said about how Clemson has the resume? That's actually whenever he sent me what we were talking about. I was a little bit late. I was at work, and I got home and I started doing some homework, and then when I was at work, I had time I started, writing a little bit of notes down and stuff. When you say Clemson has the resume, yeah, they beat some teams that I don't particularly think are good. I 100% agree with you. But I want to touch on, okay, if I told you put a blindfold on and let's talk about TCU. So if I have the blindfold on and you don't know I'm talking about TCU, but they beat number 18, they beat and they beat number 17. If I take away, and all my friends are Clemson fans, I know some guys that are super big into it. They run some things on social media for like betting and other things, podcasts and stuff like that, sports writing, similar things that some of us do. Clemson with the totem pole to TCU, what TCU's accomplished. Why is TCU not getting that?
I feel you.
You had the same style of wins. Yeah, they don't play similar competition in theory, people say. But if you take the blindfold based off of the wins, Clemson, Syracuse, Clemson beat NC State. Clemson played Florida State.
And Wake Forest.
Yeah.
I mean.
But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think TCU should. I mean, I can see why TCU should be in the top 4.
Yeah, you stole my point. I was waiting on you to. I liked where you were going because that was my first complaint. I don't have any problem with the top 4 as it is, but like, man, you can't convince me Bama's got a better resume than TCU. You can argue that Bama would beat TCU on the field, but man, rankings aren't supposed to be based on hypothetical lines of games that aren't going to happen.
Yeah,
rankings are supposed to be based on resume. And if you're basing it strictly off a resume, I think you got a pretty good argument. As crazy as I think Georgia is a better team than TCU, TCU's got a better resume than Georgia.
Yeah,
at the end of the day. And so I think that's what people get frustrated with. And I think, we can, whatever side of the coin you fall on playoff expansion, the reason that people are so vocal about playoff expansion is it gives the committee room for error to be wrong. And because people are so tired of year after year, there's really good teams that don't have the brand or quote unquote don't have the perceived strength of schedule or strength of conference that get left out, even though blind, they have really good wins on their resume. And that's why I think expanding to 12, you have the debate between 12 through 15 might not be as intense as the debate between 4 and like 6. Yeah. And so I think that's what people are trying to argue is because, I mean, if you look at TCU's schedule, regardless if it's close wins, any type of wins, man, they are out there beating teams to death with a quarterback who has been atrocious throughout his career at times, and a first-year head coach in Sonny Dykes, a new scheme, a new defensive coordinator. Man, at all actuality, man, TCU should be terrible this year. And here they are sitting at 8-0 going into this weekend.
I think go ahead.
You love is that's a little show for Sham from our neck of the woods, transferring from USC and playing TCU, man, and doing. I got a little bit of love for the Horned Frogs, man. I lived down the street from him growing up, man. He was one of the better athletes to come from our area, and next to Puna Ford and a couple other guys that have made it. I got D. Delaney from our neck of the woods. I'm a Buccaneer. I showed a little love to Shane with TCU love. I know a lot of my Clemson friends that might watch this are going to be upset, but
no, I think when the voters are voting, I think it just depends on. It's just like when you talk about who's the better team. It's like, what do you consider in like GOAT conversations? It's like, what do you consider important? Like when you consider resume, just resume. Honestly, TCU and Clemson have the best resume of the undefeateds. Then some of the voters consider biggest win. Somebody said Tennessee has the best win. Do they? I mean, they played at home in front of 110,000 and they beat Alabama by 3. Georgia played on a neutral field, regardless of how many Oregon fans made the trip. They wasn't at home. They blasted Oregon. And Oregon is in the top number 8. So who has the better win? It just depends on what you think is important. I mean, Ohio State hadn't played anybody, but I watched the games, man. Ohio State can score on anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I'm watching the games.
Don't forget the LSU win for Tennessee. If we're basing off the rankings, bro, LSU is
if you basing off
and they blasted them in Death Valley by what, 35 or something like that?
Yeah, it was like 40. It was like 40 something to 10 or something like that.
Yeah, I think
so. That's what, and then it's like who's on the committee and what they like. Who do they think's really good? Like you say, I think they are giving Tennessee a lot of credit for that LSU and Bama win. But I'm with y'all. Like, I feel like TCU and Clemson. I mean, like when you just blind take the names off the resume and you say these dudes done beat like 4 ranked teams or something. I don't know. It's crazy. So I don't know. But then you got some guys in there that's in the room that just be like, okay, well, if they play, who's gonna win? You know, and it's like, okay, well, they're not. Because I heard the chairman, the committee chair say that the reason why TCU didn't get over Alabama is because they like to see it on both sides of the ball. I'm like, well, that can't be true because Tennessee hasn't been on both sides of the ball. Have you seen the statistics? They give up like 400 yards a game in the air. So it's like, how you saying it's both sides of the ball when it come to TCU, but you're not saying it's both sides of the ball when you come to Tennessee? So I don't know. It's what you think is important.
Nice. You know, when y'all was bringing up TCU, like this isn't the first time that they've been disrespected.
Facts. 2014.
2014. You know, for those of you who don't know, I'm an Oregon fan. Like, did Ohio State not jump them to make the playoffs that year?
It was because it was the first year of the college football players, and this is my opinion. The college football committee didn't want to make that hard choice. They didn't want to do the hard work and choose between TCU and Baylor because one won in the regular season and the other one won the actual Big 12 championship. But both of them, in my opinion, that year was better than Ohio State. But Ohio State went in, won the championship. So. But yeah, TCU already done got boo-booed on one time.
and what was it? There was one in the BCS era where they were left out too. They were like 3 or 4 one year under Patterson, and they got left out again. So same for Oklahoma State. They got what was it? That was that year LSU and Bama played again, and Oklahoma State was sitting there undefeated and couldn't get in.
Yeah, the game of the century.
When it comes to teams outside of the top 6, right? That's including Michigan and Alabama outside of the top 6. There's a couple schools who I know they mentioned on College Football Live and College Game Day who could not. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but could potentially, in a perfect world, in a different universe, make a run for the playoffs, right? And those, you know, and they have to win out, of course, and they have to win their conference championship. But those teams being, you know, my Oregon Ducks, Illinois, and LSU, who would you give the biggest possibility to make that run to the playoffs out of those 3 teams?
If they table, like you said, running the table, and what that consists of, LSU has the best ability. If they ran the table, they have the best shot out of the next teams you see, aside from, of course, Alabama. But you look at, say Alabama loses this game to LSU. Mm-hmm. LSU wins out. LSU plays in the SEC championship game, and they play the winner of this weekend's game, Tennessee, Georgia, right? Which I think.
Well, to your point, if LSU runs the table and wins the SEC, it doesn't matter. They're in the playoffs.
On a Bama win and a Tennessee Georgia win. Let's talk about it.
One loss SEC champion is in the playoffs. I can guarantee
2 losses.
you that.
They got 2, don't they?
LSU got 2.
They got 2.
Yeah, they got 2 losses. They lost to Florida State, and then they lost to Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee, you
are
Tennessee
right. Beat them by 30.
Yeah. So
at home.
Let me retract that. I think Oregon is rooting for Georgia this weekend because if
too.
their one loss is to the number 1 team in the nation, and it was the first game, you know, people always try to explain the first game away. I don't do that. But you played the game. We watched it. Whatever. Yeah. It's like, you know, people say Ohio State ain't struggled with nobody all year. I watched you play Notre Dame at home and struggle. So I'm just saying. But that's how the committee says it. It's the first game, you know, whatever. It's 1 loss to the number 1 team. So you bet the Oregon Ducks are rooting for the Dogs this weekend. If they run the table and the Dogs run the table, they most likely might be in the playoffs.
I say Oregon too. That would be my pick because I agree with you. If LSU has the strongest path, but I don't see them beating Bama this weekend. I don't see them going to the SEC championship and beating either Tennessee or Georgia. And for me, Oregon, you look at their remaining schedule. Colorado, atrocious this year. They're going to beat them by as many points as they want. Washington isn't very good. Utah isn't what we thought they were, and Oregon State's not very good. And I don't think USC is very good. I got Caleb Williams, but no one else on that team really gets me excited. And I think Oregon would beat USC if they played today with how strong that team looks on both sides of the football and how well Bo Nix is playing. So I got Oregon, man. And like Coach said, if your only loss is week 1 to Georgia in a quote unquote neutral site, which was in Atlanta, Georgia, which I've been to an SEC championship that Georgia's played in Atlanta. It's not a neutral site, regardless of what anyone says. And on top of that, too, people forget it was Dan Lanning's first ever game as a head coach against his former team in the first year with a new quarterback and a new system with Kenny Dillingham as the OC. Man, that's a tough opener. And I agree with Coach. I don't see that game going any differently. But when you're looking at playoff resumes, man, and it comes down to best loss. No one has a better loss than a week 1 loss to Georgia in Georgia with a first year head coach who came from Georgia, where Kirby Smart knows everything he wanted to do. I mean, you can't write a better loss than that.
Yeah. So I think Oregon.
Now,
Oregon, I was kind of just more so touching on,
the other ones,
the other way that if SEC plays the SEC card and with what's given for the future, that would be essentially the best theory. Now, there could be sneaker teams. You could have, what if Florida didn't beat Utah? They beat USC when they were number 7. Yeah, they lost. They dropped a game to UCLA, but they lost by 10. UCLA is ranked. As UCLA,
I mean, and USC only got 1 loss, right?
Yeah, they're top 10 in the country.
They lost to UCLA. UCLA is 12. I'm looking at it. You can make a case for a lot of these teams. I mean, they're good ball teams. Top 15 getting this late in the season, man, you're a good ball team, man. It just, you could have put a couple pieces together to 1 or 2 loss game that rewrites the story of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Now, I want to get the Blues team. Let's talk about the head coaching vacancy that you guys have right now. Who should be Auburn's next head coach? Of course, we all heard about Deion Sanders and what he's doing.
Who should it be?
But I've heard people say Hugh Freeze, even though I wouldn't want those problems if I was y'all.
Nope.
I've heard people say who was the other one? Lane Kiffin. Like I've heard names coming up. In your opinion, Blue, since it's your team, we'll start with you. Who do you think should be Auburn's next head coach?
Well, so, I work for On 3 on the side. That's my other job. And I work for Auburn Live at On 3. And I got the most recent hot board today from Justin Hokason, the senior insider. And Kobe, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to have to say this. The new number 1 in the field house is looking like Dan Lanning. And Auburn's getting the money together to throw that buyout out the window.
I knew it. They're
going to bring him to Auburn and bring Kenny Dillingham back to Auburn, where he was already the OC. He has jumped up the board on Auburn's list because they want someone. They look at him as the next Kirby Smart, next Mel Tucker coming out of that Georgia program, and they saw what he did with Bo Nix, that he was supposed to be Auburn's savior. He's about to go up there and get to New York for the Heisman. Dan Lanning is flying up the boards. They're going to interview Kiffin. They're going to interview Freeze. They're going to interview Prom. But Lanning is the hottest candidate on the board right now. And also another candidate, if they miss on their top targets, a candidate to watch that has been mentioned is Sonny Dykes at TCU. That first-year head coach, undefeated, but he's like a backup plan from what I've been told. But the top 3, if I had to rank them right now based on the intel I've gotten, it's probably going to be Kiffin, Lanning, and then Freeze would probably be like the third option right now, with Prom and some of those other guys falling behind. But they're all going to get interviews. But Lanning is flying up the board, and everyone is loving that news in Auburn.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So I figured that Lanning was going to be it. Me and some fellas talked about that because it's almost similar to the Mel Tucker situation. He goes to Colorado, wins a couple of games. He didn't even have the success that Lanning is having at Oregon, and then Michigan State bought him out. Boom. 2 years later, they're in New Year's 6, whatever. A Saban Kirby coaching tree. So they're looking at, like you say, Bo Nix is doing good under Lanning and Dillingham out there. Problem is, Dan Lanning is from the Midwest. I don't know if he wants to leave Oregon. I mean, money can talk, but I don't know if he wants to leave Oregon.
I pray to God not.
Listen, should none of them dudes be the coach at Auburn? It should be the dude that's coaching at Coastal Carolina. He already got the staff in place. The dude he wins everywhere he goes. Of course, Prime is a good candidate because Prime going to be able to bring the Jimmys and Joes regardless, and he's going to be able to put together good staff. I think Kiffin is going to be the next coach at Alabama. I think that's what he's waiting on. I don't think he's going to leave Ole Miss for Auburn. He may interview, but I don't think he is. I think he's waiting on Nick Saban to retire. He's pretty much the only person I think could follow Nick Saban because of the attitude and the brashness that he has. Hugh Freeze, I wouldn't want no problems if I'm Auburn. I don't know. I think
he's a backup plan. He's just a backup plan. I mean,
but see, that's what I'm saying. Like, he shouldn't even be higher than the dude from Coastal Carolina. Nobody's like that dude can coach.
Well, the worry is that Georgia Tech might pull the trigger on Chadwell before Auburn gets a chance. Like, I've heard a lot of rumors that Dell McGee and Chadwell are getting major looks from Georgia Tech as the head coach, and I think they should hire Dell McGee. I think he's long overdue for an opportunity as a head coach, but
some head coaching jobs ain't better than position coaches.
No, and it's not. And I agree with you. But man, Chadwell, I would love Chadwell, and I mean, they're overlooking him. I really do. I think a lot of people are overlooking him just because it's Coastal Carolina. But the thing with Auburn is, I think the biggest thing they want is one Power 5 experience. They don't want to take a shot at someone from anything less than Power 5. And if they're going to take a shot at someone with no Power 5 experience, they're going to go with someone like Prime that they know, worst case, if he doesn't even win on the field, you're going to have a roster full of talent if all else fails and he ends up leaving. And then you're not starting from ground zero. And so that's kind of like the mindset that I'm hearing behind the scenes from Auburn. But I agree. If it's me, Chadwell's got to be a candidate. But sadly, man, he hasn't even been mentioned with the job yet.
That's crazy.
I like both things you guys definitely touched on. I was going to say, when you said something about, let's talk about Coastal Carolina, and then you said, let's talk about Chadwell, I had it written down.
I'm telling you, that dude can coach.
So listen, the dude can coach.
Listen, as a Georgia fan, I'm going to let you go. As a Georgia fan, I hope they don't interview Chadwell.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I don't want him to go. Like, yes, we can beat Hugh Freeze. We can beat Dan Lanning.
The West guy, and then we got the out West guy. That's guys, I'm going to think the same way you are, Coach. What I got down, Auburn's head coaching search, guys who I think are realistic, guys who I think are guys who need to be planned for in certain executions of, if this target is a no-go, what is this exploration in more depth? The first thing that I wrote down on the entire thing, don't even give Freeze the look. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I think that guys who are realistic, yes. Dan Lanning, hey, sign me up. If I was in the coaching market, sign me up. Chadwell's a good idea if, you're trying to give the little guy the opportunity. A guy that I really do want to see there, just from a football side of it, a guy that I don't want to see there because I feel like if he excelled, would be absolute chaos. I would love to see Matt Rule leave Carolina and go back. I think that if he could bring his kind of idea of what it is in the, NFL, he worked with Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady's a wizard. I think a lot of people think he's a wizard. I think Matt Rule in the NFL was kind of cool, but I think let's go back to recruiting up some talent, man. Be a role model to these kids. Show what you got. But more than likely, I think you guys end up with, if you don't get candidate one, man, I think, if Prime entertains the offer, that's fantastic. I would throw the offer out to Stoops out of UK. I'd throw the offer out to, even if you want to go down the Georgia tree, why not Todd Monken? NFL experience. He's high powered in the NFL. He can kind of scheme some things up. Might as well kind of see what it is if you want to, go after a dynasty style coach and just try to take one of their top guys at a OC or DC position. And
that's the Florida in you talking now.
What do you mean Florida talking?
You want to take Todd Monken from us?
So bad.
No, I'm talking about to Auburn. Yeah, I don't want Brown to go to Auburn either. I'm be honest.
I'm a Bucks fan. I had to deal with Todd Monken. I thought he was fantastic, man. I wanted to keep him because he made Jameis look like. I mean, Jameis not going for 5,000 yards and throwing up for touchdowns, but he also threw 30 interceptions.
I think Prime at Auburn is a problem. Like the way he can recruit, dog.
In today's,
like, listen, man, we play Auburn every year. I don't know how it's gonna shake out when the new teams come in, but I think they're gonna keep the Auburn going. I think we gonna still play them every year. I don't want to have to see Prime every year because he can recruit like nobody's business, and you give him the resources that Auburn, the SEC team got. Like, That's the problem, dog. I'm trying to listen, man. I'm a dog, man. I'm trying to start this dynasty over here. I don't need nobody interrupting this thing.
The worst thing though, because it's not only that, but like Auburn's selling point to some coaches, because everyone's like, why would Kiffin leave? Why would Lanning leave? And Auburn right now was nearing $20 million raised for their NIL program that they just started. Plus the $93 million football only facility opens up next year. Man, you give someone like Prime that. It's bro. Nick
stay
Saban
where you
not,
at, Prime. Do it for the
Nick
coaching,
Saban
dog.
Nick Saban doesn't sleep for 2.5 months minimum.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dog.
You said
listen,
the facilities as a just getting our first year of it. When you're nearing $100 million on a building that's designed just for a football program, it's exciting. I think that's going to help on the trail. I heard, I got some friends, man, and I want to make a shout out. I don't know if that's cool, Kobe.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I got some guys, man, that I'm heavily involved on Twitter. If you follow me, man, I'm pretty involved in talking about sports and people spark conversations. Kind of fell out of it a little bit, but shout out to the Big Three roll up, and shout out to Stadium and Gale. Stadium and Gale's ran by the same guy who started the Big Three roll up. It's Big Three roll up is Florida State, Florida, and a Miami fan, and all three of them started it, and they branched out. They got pretty big. They got a whole bunch of followers, and then Stadium and Gale is hosted by him. Uncle Silk is what he goes by, and then Ahmad Black, man. It's pretty cool to listen to as a Florida fan, and definitely shout out to those guys for kind of getting me on the podcast train. When Kobe invited me, I was like, man, this is like one of my first times being on a podcast. I was like, it's pretty cool, man. I grew up as listening, and to be on one's kind of cool.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Man, football only, yeah. Hey, that's how they do it. You got to keep up with the football only thing.
Oh yeah, gotcha. All right, so I kind of want to get into three of like some notable matchups this week, tomorrow. First, Notre Dame and Clemson, man. Who you got? Why? Score prediction. What's up with that?
I'll go first. I got Clemson. They've been to Notre Dame before, so not too long. And Notre Dame's quarterback, situation ain't too strong. And if he only threw for 118 yards against Syracuse, and that's fine against Syracuse, and you can just run it down there, throw it or whatever. But if that's the case, and you trying to just Clemson's defense hasn't been what I thought it was going to be this year. I thought they was going to look similar to the Dog defense last year, but they've had a lot of injuries, but they are healthy for the first time. He ain't just going to be running up and down the field. I don't think so. Now, I could be wrong, but I got Clemson. I'm like Boone. I got Clemson covering the spread.
I agree. Yeah. I got Clemson winning that game as well. I mean, even though they're floating at 4, man.
They're just winning, though.
That was a good coach. They got a good culture. They got a good defense. Front seven, spectacular. A little bit of questions on the offensive side. A lot of my Clemson friends that kind of chime me in, man. I don't watch every one of their games. I do try to chime in, and if they're on, I do watch them. I think DJ's got a lot of concerns, man. I don't know if they're 100% fluid and happy with the way that they can use them. I think some of my friends that are Clemson fans say that they run a very vanilla offense with him. It's more of like a first read and then kind of safe play, just kind of rock and roll. They don't really give him a playbook that they feel comfortable with, and that kind of goes into what their coaching style is. They want to play, if it's conservative and it's still winning us football games, hey, let's roll, but they don't want to make him uncomfortable.
Plus, they don't have the weapons on the outside that Trevor and Deshaun had, so they can't. Yeah, they don't have a T. Higgins that's going to erase any mistakes, you know what I'm saying?
They don't have that, man. I would say that is there a shot Notre Dame can win the game? Hey.
If they can throw the ball. If they can throw the ball, they got a shot.
Pick up on, how some of these other teams played them, and kind of see what those things kind of work. They do like to run some. I feel like they have a good amount of drawn up screens. I think they like to run for Shipley, and then that what is the his name's slipping my head. The other gentleman who's got the
running back.
Yeah, it's
Phil Maffa.
Maffa.
Okay. Yeah, Maffa's their best. He's been coming on as a late.
Yeah,
before it's all said and done, he'll be the best runner that Clemson has. Shipley's just the overall best player.
Yeah.
That they have.
Yeah, man. I think that I'm gonna go with the gut. I'm gonna say Clemson's gonna win. I think they cover because what is it? 4? Is 4 the spread?
Something like that. It's not much, but I think they cover.
Over unders like 40 44 or 42.5 or something like that. I think they're favored to win by like 4 points.
Gonna be one of the most boring nighttime games tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's a fact. Yeah, it's gonna be Clemson. It's definitely gonna be Clemson, man. Listen, you can say what you want about DJU struggling. He's better than any quarterback on Notre Dame's roster, in my opinion. I think Shipley, Maffa, any of them running backs, man, they're gonna be able to run the football against Notre Dame. I don't trust Notre Dame's defense to make any stops, and I think Notre Dame's offensive line has struggled at times this year. It is time for that front four to go and eat for Clemson this weekend. I also love Trent Simpson at linebacker for them, and that kid is an NFL caliber linebacker all over the field. Give me Clemson. I would say by 10 to 14 this weekend.
Yep. Trent Simpson is a semifinalist for the Butkus Award, by the way.
A dog.
All right, so next up, man, we got Alabama and LSU. You know, Jaden has been playing very good as of late, you know, and Alabama is Alabama. So please tell me who y'all got for this one.
Well, Jaden Daniels has thrown for 300 yards a game the last 3 games after starting the season kind of like under 200. So he is kind of hot, but their offensive line has been kind of shaky. And Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, I think, are looking to make up some ground on their statistical categories in the sack because they didn't get any against Tennessee. It is an LSU night game, though, so I think LSU may keep it closer than people think. I just think Alabama's too good for them. At the end of the day, Bryce is healthy now. I think Alabama wins this one. I think the spread is like, 13.5 or something like that. I think they will cover it with a late score, possibly, like beat them by 14.
West. I want to hear that
okay.
of it. I want because SEC hearing SEC West guys compared to SEC East guys, man, we're so focused on our side of the conference that we don't get to kind of just hear how you played them on the level of like fandom and the close amount of attention that's paid to it with being in that side of the conference.
I don't think anything about this team resembles a top 10 team in the country. I don't even think it's going to be close. The only thing that might make it close is the fact that it's hard to play in Death Valley at night. And that place is going to be it might be rocking right now, and then there might not be even fans in there, and there you go. But I don't think LSU has any run game really. And do you trust Jaden Daniels to go out there and just toss the ball around the yard with his wide receivers not being super consistent in big games? Man, I just saw Tennessee go in there and absolutely shut them down. And Tennessee's defense, in my opinion, is not as good as Alabama's defense. Not even close. I think this is a blowout, in my opinion, man. I think Alabama, these Nick Saban teams, know that if they don't win out, man, it's a wrap on this season. And that's not acceptable in this Nick Saban era. I expect Bryce Young to have a big game. And the underrated player in the country, can we give Jahmyr Gibbs some credit? That kid is unstoppable through the air, on the ground. I think with the injuries that LSU has in their front seven, I expect Bama to go out here and win by 20+ this weekend in Death Valley.
I look at Jahmyr Gibbs like a Alvin Kamara kind of guy. Like I love the way he plays, man.
So Coach, you remember whenever Jahmyr was coming out of high school, I was sitting there and I mean, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I sat here when this man was getting the looks, he's getting the offers, and you saw the film, and you saw what this kid was capable of, even how young he was in his high school career. And then I see Florida was flirting with him, and he wouldn't commit to the Mullen thing because he's a passing quarterback. He wouldn't commit to the whole doing that. He was hosted a bunch of times. I know we had on the table, going to Georgia Tech, and then right when he went to Bama, I gotta have friends vouch for me. I said, I'm telling you right now, when that boy hits Alabama,
different story.
And he's gonna put the nation on watch like he was supposed to do. And he would have stayed at Georgia Tech, he still would have did it. He is an unbelievable talent. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. You can see it. He's fast. He's elusive with the cuts. I mean, he's also, I feel like he's a smart football player. He makes smart decisions. I think that, like you were saying, Blue and Coach, I don't think it's going to be, do I think LSU has a shot? Yeah. The reason being, nobody wants to play in Death Valley. SEC.
Not at night.
We don't want to play in Death Valley. I damn sure don't want to play there at night. And if they start, if a big play gets made and you hear neck in the crowd, they don't care about getting fined. They don't care about any of that. It's LSU. It doesn't matter how vanilla the social media era wants to make the home stadium presence. It's a tough place to play. Nobody wants to play there, even on your best day, and you damn sure don't want to be there on your worst day.
No.
It's always a good experience to watch Alabama and LSU. We can go through the history book of some of those are the most boring games you've ever seen, but it was a very exclusive, very well thought out game plan, defensive scoring, 12-13, or the 9-6. What year was the 9-6?
2010.
2012.
2012.
Yeah, it's 2012, 2011, somewhere in there.
Like that.
It was 20. It had to be 2012 because Nick Saban won the championship that year.
It came down to LSU's field goal kicker missed 2 or 3 field goals. Alabama's kicker missed 2 or 3.
Terrible game.
He's the one that made the money. So it's one of those things where it's a crazy experience, man. Do I think LSU comes out and plays a ball game and Alabama plays like they did against Tennessee? Shit. LSU can beat them, but Alabama's shown that they're beatable. But I think Alabama comes out here, smooths to a cool 10, 14-point win, like you were saying, and it rolls out. And if it gets ugly, Blue, I think you're right on the money. It could be a blowout. They could go up 3 scores and shut the stadium down. Fans are leaving, going eating crawfish, and rocking out on a nice November night.
Yeah, Bone says Tigers by 4, 31-27. Hey, LSU at night, you don't know what can happen, but I do know one thing. You will have to score more than 31 to beat Alabama. Like, they're not going to hold Alabama to 4 touchdowns. That's not happening.
No.
All right, and the game of the week, clearly, Tennessee and Georgia. I mean, these teams are kind of similar offensively. I mean, Tennessee is putting up 50 points a game, but, I mean, Georgia is not that far behind, putting up, 41 points. Average yards a game. I think Tennessee is 553 a game. Georgia is 530. They're not that far off offensively. How do y'all see this game going?
I'll say mine for last.
I do want to let him go last, but I want to let Blue start us off with his being the west part of the conference guy.
Man, it's really just going to come down to whether Georgia's defense can slow down that Tennessee offense. I mean, that's what it comes down to every week, because you're good for at least 20-something points against Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you are. If it gets over 30, man, that's where it kind of gets a little iffy. Man, I've been to Athens. I've been there when Auburn was a top 10 team in the country, man. We went in there, and it was I couldn't hear myself think for 3.5 hours, man, and we got beat to death. It was a problem. And I've been there when Tennessee went on the Hail Mary, and I've heard that place is silent where you could hear the tears in that stadium. I've been there both times. It's a hard place to win, and for me, this is Hendon Hooker's Heisman moment. It is. I don't care what he did against Bama. That's great. This is different, man. Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, man, just go down the list of names that are on that defensive coaching staff. If you can go out there and throw for 250, 300 and get a win, man, it's a wrap. No one's touching you in the Heisman votes. And this will be a win for me that Josh Heupel could hang his entire career on moving forward. I think this win is significantly more impressive than anything they could have done against Bama at home, with everything that they had going for them. Going into Athens and winning in this type of environment is way bigger. And then also, I know Georgia has a lot of depth, but man, that front seven's a little bit banged up. Who steps up for some of the big names you got two 5-stars that are out for this game. You're going to have someone step up and go get the quarterback. Because if you let Hendon Hooker sit back there and have time, I don't care how good your secondary is, they got some weapons, and he's going to find some, because he does not make many mistakes in this offense, and he knows exactly where to put the ball. When everything in my body is telling me Georgia's defense is going to make a play, but then I've seen it time and time again, man. There's these special teams, the 2010 Auburn team, 2019 LSU, where they might not have been perfect, man, but every week they find a way to get it done. I'm going with the upset, man. I got Tennessee squeaking out a 3-point win this weekend in Athens, man. They just have all the momentum, man. And they just has that feel of that team of destiny that we see come along in college football every once in a while. But I do agree, man. If Georgia's defense goes out there and plays like they did against Oregon, man, this thing could get real ugly on the other side, man. But I like Tennessee for the 3-point upset.
Man, we got Coach going last, and I feel like I'm in the wrong spot for him to be able to go just right back with the clap back as the Georgia fan. Coach, man, I'll fit this one out, man. If you want to go ahead and do it, I'll go last. More comfortable. Whatever you want to do, bro.
Nah, wait. You go ahead.
All right. I see like we've been talking about all night, man. This has been a great experience. I've had a blast talking with you fellas. You guys have definitely taught me something. I think that, learning something new every day is definitely one of those things you kind of take for granted. But do I think Tennessee is a great football team? Absolutely. Is Tennessee going to probably finish the season as a playoff team? More than likely. Is Georgia going to finish the season as a playoff team? Absolutely. Is Georgia a better football team? Yes. On paper, on the field, on the stats, aside from a few things. So total offense, yards per game, you have number 1 and number 2. Obviously, it's a difference in 0.1 yards per game. Okay. Somebody took an extra step than the other team did in the whole course of 4 quarters. Yards per play, you have number 3 and number 4. Tennessee's number 3 at 7.4 yards per play. Georgia's number 2 at 7.24 yards per play. You go down to the defense side of it. Now, this is where the deciding factor is. Defense wins games. Defense wins championships. Defense will always reign supreme. I personally like a really good defense, and give me a system-style quarterback, not a big talent, and a good running game. And that's the kind of guy that I want to be. And if you have the super good arm talent, the super good field general, hey, that was your roster that was picked up over the course, and you deserve that one. So total defense, you have Tennessee at number 82 overall, giving up 393 yards a game. And then you have Georgia at number 4 overall with 262 yards per game. Do I think 130 yards is difference in a game in terms of defense? That could be a difference in a couple scores, if you think about it. Depending on field position, depending on touchbacks, you're giving up more big plays if you're giving up 400 yards per game. I mean, that's big plays. That's not just, playing 4 quarters of football in an aspect, but, it could be, of course, more. You go into yards per play allowed, Georgia's number 9, Tennessee's 43. Scoring offense, number 1 and number 6. Man, I'm going with my gut. I'm going with the obvious. I say playing in Athens when Georgia is as good as they are is it's a tough spout, man. Kirby don't lose at home. I'm going to say I think that it's going to get nasty. I think this is the big test that shows everybody Tennessee is a good football team, but they're not going to – it's not going to be like playing Bama soft. It's going to be Georgia's about to come in here and show these boys, you're going to come into Athens and we're going to get between them hedges, and it's going to get a little rowdy in there. That defense is going to show up, I feel like, and Kirby's not going to take the foot off the gas because that's the kind of guy he is. He definitely doesn't do that when he plays us. I definitely expect him to. He don't take the foot off the gas, no way. He comes from the Nick Saban coaching tree. Nick Saban doesn't give a shit if he's up 64-0. If you can score and we can keep playing football, you're going to go down the field. You're going to keep playing football. That's the kind of coach he is. I think that it's going to get nasty. I'm saying 14-17 minimum is going to be the difference in a Saturday matchup. I think a pick six happens, and I think it's going to happen early. It's going to shake up the storybook things where the Heisman comes in here and he has that moment that kind of is either going to be the make or break. And I think, unfortunately, having your Heisman being against the reigning national champion at home, I pray for him. It would be a great experience as a human being, but, man, I don't think it's happening.
Yeah. So I want to say this first. I believe that Tennessee and Georgia will be in the playoffs because I feel like the winner of this game will beat Alabama in the SEC championship, and then the other one will only have a loss to the number 1 team in the nation. With that said, I think Tennessee is a good team. I think you cannot stop Tennessee. It's like a good score in basketball. You just got to kind of like try to slow him down and then make sure, the rest of the team don't get off on you. So I think Tennessee's going to put up some points. I don't think they – just like Georgia hasn't faced an offense as good as Tennessee. They haven't. And Tennessee, conversely, hasn't faced a defense as good as Georgia. Alabama has 2 good defenders, Dallas Turner and Will Anderson. And they rush from the edge. And that's not actually how you stop Tennessee. If anybody goes back and watch how we did Tennessee in Neyland last year, it's because we stopped the run. They came into that game last year averaging 217 yards on the ground. We held them to like 85. They're going to throw on you. I mean, that's not, you can't stop that. But if you could stop their run And it crazy as it sounds, is if you make Tennessee one-dimensional throwing the ball, they're not as high potent as they are if they can do both. Right now, they're averaging 200 yards on the ground too. People don't even realize that. It's like they're throwing for almost 350 something, but they're running for 200 yards. So we'll be without Nolan Smith, which is going to hurt. But we got Jalen Carter back, and Jalen Carter is what we need. Jalen Carter's in the middle. You got to pressure Hendon Hooker right up in his face. Like his accuracy goes.
He can move.
But his accuracy goes way down when you get around them ankles. You don't even have to really sack him. If he can't step into his throws. And as far as him running, he ran on us a little bit, but I think that he's less hard to bring down than Anthony Richardson. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to Anthony Richardson. It's just that dude's too big, too strong, too physical. I think Hendon Hooker is faster, but I don't think he's as hard to bring down. I think that our DBs, they like to isolate your safeties. If you watch the Bama game, Helms, he had a long night with Hyatt. And I definitely will take our safeties over pretty much anybody's safeties in America. So I think with all that said, being at home, and I know a lot of Tennessee fans like the crowd noise ain't going to do nothing. Listen, man. Ask Arkansas last year. Ask anybody that's played in between the hedges. When Kirby actually comes out and says, any game, he did this like 3 games last year. It's like, we need it to be loud. It gets as loud, almost as loud as Death Valley and LSU at nighttime. Not as
it's
loud.
Louder. No, it's louder. I've been to both.
I've been to both too, but decibels say that LSU gets louder. But that's I'm just going.
I was there, man. No, Clemson and Georgia are different.
Yeah, it is, and I think like you said, I've seen this story before. 2nd-year coach, not supposed to be there yet, doing their thing. Dogs in 2017, roll to Auburn, get absolutely smashed in Auburn. Like, it wasn't even a game from the jump. Like, we score first, Auburn scores the rest. That was how the game went. We scored first, Auburn scored the rest. Sony and Nick Chubb, 2 of the best running backs to ever grace the field in the SEC, couldn't do jack. And it was one of those things because we talked about this earlier when we was talking about the suspensions. These are 18 to 22-year-old kids. It's hard not to notice that you're number one. Everybody's liking you. You feeling yourself. You watch Georgia struggle against Kent State, and then you thinking, how they going to stop me? Now, Josh Heupel knows that's not true. You know what I'm saying? But as an 18 to 22-year-old, if you watch your rival struggle against somebody that's way less than you, you're like, how they going to stop me? So it's like, it's that hangover and it's roller coasters. And I don't really feel like Tennessee's been on the downside of that roller coaster. So that's a hard thing to do when you come out that, hey, in 2017, we was number 1 in the playoff rankings the first time. And then South Carolina came in between the hedges. We was feeling ourselves. They gave us a game for a half. And then it was just, we just had better talent. And I just think it's going to be hard. All those factors put together, I think Georgia will cover the spread. It says something when 90% of the betting money is on the Volunteers and Vegas still didn't move the line.
Coach, I think you made a great point. I think that it's one of those things like you were saying, man. Like with 90% of the bets is going the way that it's going, and you have no line change. Like, I mean, they're holding firm. The house is holding firm. You don't bet against. Betting against Vegas, you know, is already hard. Vegas already likes to play their card and everything, so it's tough. You know, it's going to be a really good game, man. It's going to be one of those things as any one of us, doesn't matter our fandom. We're going to tune in. We're going to be excited. It's always cool to watch 2 extremely talented teams play head-to-head in the regular season, and it's not end of the season rivalry game. But it is kind of a little bit of a rivalry game because it's Eastern. It's the Eastern side of the SEC, but
they don't like us and we don't like them.
And I know what it's like on both sides. I know that
you don't like either one of us either.
But this is the thing. I think that we have in my opinion, I think we have the best rivalry. Now he might say him and Alabama's the best rivalry, or you might say
Ohio State, Michigan. That's mine. I don't know.
I think it's a great rivalry too. Texas, Oklahoma's a good rivalry. I think a lot of good there's a lot of great rivalries out there. I mean, putting one over the other, I'm saying it from a fan side, but man, I've seen it. I've seen Tennessee. I've never got to see my team play in Georgia because Florida and Georgia fans, we got it like that.
I don't recommend it.
But Coach, Florida and Georgia fans, we got it like that. We play stadium. It's about 100,000 deep. We're out here at the world's largest cocktail party. We're out here doing it. We're live in Duval County. It's a home game for us. It's a home game for y'all. We rock and roll. But man, I'll tell you what. I've never been to Athens as my own team. I've seen Athens get crazy. I've seen Tennessee get crazy. Tennessee's got a little bit bigger stadium.
Yeah.
Florida's a crazy experience. I know that some people have been and seen Florida. That Auburn game when Michael P. Ryan broke that big run, that was one of the loudest stadiums it's ever been. And that was a day game. And then, we had night game. It was Tebow's honor into the ring of honor for Florida. I was sitting in the section where they dropped the banner, and we pick off Joe B. They're rated number 9 in the country. We pick off Joe B. Brad Stewart from the boot comes through playing for in a good guys jersey, and we win the game. And that was one of my good, memorable experiences in the swamp. And man, I just think it's going to be a tough game, and I'm definitely super excited. I'm going to watch every ounce of it. Definitely don't have a dog in the fight, but I just think from a football standpoint, man, I think Georgia comes out. That front seven plays strong. You can only rotate O-linemen so much. I think that they have a good amount of depth. They got some young guys who hopefully can come out and make a play, and I think that's the kind of the tale of tape.
Yep.
Kobe, how you got? I feel like you've been asking us questions and stuff, and some of these questions, man, we didn't get to hear none of your kind of.
Oh, listen. I done said on social media. I don't want to
run through all the questions again, but
I'm going with Tennessee. I love how explosive that offense is. I'm rooting with Tennessee. I'm an offensive guy. I love fireworks. Like, it's not hard to get me on board if the offense is like fun to watch. Which is why
Coach is so disappointed.
I love seeing offense, of course.
Bro, listen, man. Everybody
have like the fastest guys in the world for the last 15 years.
Listen, everybody on social media is picking Tennessee, dog. Like, listen, y'all remember last year when Georgia got a dose of reality in the SEC championship, and Nick Saban after the game said, "Thank you for the rat poison." Well, I'm telling y'all ahead of time, thank you for the rat poison.
Now for Tennessee fans,
bro, I love. That's why I became an Oregon fan. Like during the glory days of Chip Kelly and that. Like I love offense. Like I love explosive offense. So I'm a rock with Tennessee.
We'll be sure to give you some Saturday. We'll be sure to give you plenty of points in Athens, red and black, getting into the end zone Saturday.
By no means do I think this is going to be like a runaway thing for Tennessee. I think it'll be a very close game. I just think they gonna slip it out by a little bit, by a hair. That's why I'm going with them. So that's my pick, right? But as for the last segment of the night, and then I'm gonna get y'all out of here. I want to do something. But y'all seen this overreaction, not overreaction. I'm gonna say a phrase. Y'all tell me whether y'all think it's a reaction or overreaction. Okay. So the first one. This is the lowest talent-wise Bama team that we've seen in a long time.
I think that's overreaction.
Yeah,
I think
because this team actually includes 2 years ago, 2022, Jimbo had the number 1 class, and it's the highest rated class ever. 2021, Nick Saban had the highest rated class ever, and they've only lost 2 people from that class. So, and then this is Bama. They're literally always number 1 in the 247 composite rating. So talent. Now, some of these guys might not be motivated because they ain't getting no NIL. I don't know. I mean, think about it like man, I should be getting more than this dude. Who knows how this is working? But I just think that they are, and some of their receivers hadn't turned out to be as good as they thought they were. How about that?
Hey, Blue, what about you? Anything else to add, or you just overreaction?
Yeah, no, it's definitely overreaction. I mean, you look at they have the talent. I think the discipline in terms of penalties and just making mistakes is something, man, we haven't seen. But when you look, I mean, they have a Heisman winning quarterback still. The backup has been a stud when he gets a shot in Jalen Milroe. You arguably have one of the best running backs in the country in Gibbs. McClellan is no scrub. The wide
Facts.
receiving unit is a little weak, but you still have a 5-star linebacker in Henry Toto, who is one of the top tacklers in the country. Your secondary might not have been playing well. You still got Jordan Battle, Brian Branch, what is it, Helms? I mean,
Kool-Aid.
yeah, Kool-Aid's back there, who's still young, and then your front seven. You got so much talent in that front seven, from Deontay Lawson, Will Anderson, number 15. I'm blanking on his name.
Dallas Turner.
Yeah, Dallas Turner. I mean, man, listen, it's stacked. They got so much talent. I just think right now, man, when you take penalties away, they probably beat Tennessee, and that Texas game probably is not very close if they don't have, what was it, like 12
15.
first half penalties.
Yeah, they had 15 in that total in that game. Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. And I think that's been the biggest issue. And then also, I don't think A&M is super close if Bryce Young plays that game. I think they lost to a good Tennessee team on the road, which they had a chance to win. Special teams bit them again. That's the story of a lifetime for Alabama fans. But I think this team is plenty talented when you compare it to former Alabama teams.
Yep.
I say it's definitely 100% agree with all the guys, man. It's definitely an overreaction, man. I mean, on paper, it's Alabama, man. Let's be honest. It's always going to look good when you look at the 247. You look at the ESPN top 100, 300. You look at all those things, man. I used to follow the recruiting train super, super hard, man, with all the guys from the podcast that I listened to. You know, that was my high school years, and then getting out of high school and, you know, meeting up with those guys in person. And I got really big into, like, I'm still big into the Florida's recruiting. And, you know, I still obviously follow the SEC. And then you see notable guys who go to other schools and stuff. I mean, on paper, man, they have so much talent. It might not be it might be a subpar Alabama team that we're used to, because we're not used to seeing them possibly struggle with a 2 to 3 loss season, because Nick Saban's won how many championships in 12, 13 years? What is it, 6?
Too many.
Six at Alabama, 1 at LSU.
6 at Alabama, 1 at LSU. I mean, he's the greatest coach of all time. This is one of the greatest runs of college football history. We all get to see it live, and we're all alive and well for it, thank God. But I mean, you start on both sides of the ball with your field general. I mean, Will Anderson's the number 2 pick in the draft. I think if he leaves last year, he's definitely going to still be up there. I mean, you had your guy, what is it, Trayvon Walker?
Mm-hmm. I think Will Anderson could have gave him a run, though.
And he could have gave him a run. Will Anderson, I think, was snubbed in kind of the race when you had Aiden
Hutchinson.
He had Hutchinson in Michigan. The stats, I mean, weren't even close.
Yeah, no.
Will Anderson had stats that were, I mean, it was like, how? Like, when you finally sat it and they showed you Aiden Hutchinson stats and then they showed you Will Anderson, you're like, what are you talking about? Well, Will Anderson had, I mean, it was like, was it not? Call me out if I'm wrong, because I know, Blue, I feel like with being in the West, you definitely would notice more. But was it not like he was doubled him in tackles for losses and turnovers? I mean, it wasn't even close. But they gave it to him because, I guess, of whatever it was. But they still played in the national championship. Bryce Young won the Heisman. I mean, they're a talented team. It's definitely an overreaction. Let's get to this next one, Kobe. What do you think?
But I think it's an overreaction for sure. Like I write these down because like I see it on social media and I'm like, well, let me see what the guys think. So like that's why I got these. Don't think I'm
oh no!
He said put some respect on my name. He was like, I'm not out here.
I'm pulling up on you.
No, I think it's an overreaction as well. You know, like you said, like we're not used to seeing Bama. We're used to seeing Bama go undefeated with potentially 1 loss on the season. So like when we see them perform like this, we think like, damn, are they that bad? They're not. It's an overreaction. They'll be back on track in no time. Next year, I think it'll be a totally different story. I don't even think they'll be the same, perform the same like how they're doing this year. But next one, overreaction, not overreaction. If Jalen Daniels of the Kansas Jayhawks stays healthy, they remain undefeated.
I think.
Man, I'm not going to get too deep into this one. I'll go kind of short and quick and simple. Starting off the season, man, Kansas had a run of games where they were the number 1 offense in the country, man. They were out here hooping. These boys are averaging like 53 a game or something. They were basically playing basketball on grass. They were getting it done, but I don't know too much about it, man. I'm not following them a whole lot. I'm not gonna try to dive deep into something I'm not really knowledgeable about.
I have been following because one of my co-hosts fell in love with Kansas after they beat Texas last year. But if Jalen Daniels stays healthy, undefeated at this point, possibly. But in the Big 12, I will say, listen, everybody knows on a regular basis. I mean, you can argue each year, but on a regular basis, the SEC is the best conference. But this year, Big 12 has been the most competitive conference because there's at least like 5 teams that could end up winning this. I mean, I know TCU's undefeated, but I mean, Kansas State only has 1 loss. Kansas would have been right there with them if Jalen Daniels stays healthy. Undefeated, I think it might be a bit of an overreaction just because I think they would have had at least 1 loss. But I think they could be right there. They wouldn't have 3 losses or 4 or whatever they have now.
Yeah. I think they're 5-3 right now. I don't think
they wouldn't be 5-3. They would at worst. I think they'd be like 7-1 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think they lose to Oklahoma or Baylor the past 2 weeks if Jalen Daniels is healthy. But man, TCU is rolling. Jesus, they're rolling. So I'm not going to say they come back and beat TCU. I mean, that TCU team is just might be that good. So I think they're probably undefeated or with 1 loss. So I think it's kind of like in the middle on this one.
Yeah. 100%.
So,
it's
all right. Overreaction, not overreaction. Jalen Daniels would be square in the Heisman race if he remain healthy.
I don't think so.
I think that's an overreaction.
Overreaction.
Yeah,
because I brought up Max Duggins from TCU earlier. Nobody's giving the Big 12 love. If Quinn Ewers had, Duggins, it's about media hype, man. Quinn Ewers came in with media hype. If he was having the season that Duggins is having and didn't get hurt against Bama, he'd be in the Heisman race. But these guys like Jalen Daniels, Max Duggins, like they start behind the 8 ball. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard for him. I don't think he'd be in the race. I mean, like you say. Like if Drake May ain't in the race, then Jalen Daniels ain't gonna be in the
Bo
race.
Nix, Drake May, Max Duggan. I mean, even Will Rogers at Mississippi State's putting up.
Like he actually, until he played Bama, he was leading the nation in passing, and he hadn't even been mentioned in the Heisman race.
Yeah, so I just don't think the hype behind Kansas would have been enough. I mean, he could have possibly been mentioned like lower, like honorable mention area, but I don't think he would have been in like the real race for the Heisman.
Yeah, no.
I think what you guys are saying, man. I mean, just think about it. There's so much talent out there, man. I mean, you have the C.J. Stroud, you got the Bryce Young, you got Hendon Hooker balling this year. I mean, we've all kind of seen it on all sides of the aspect, man. From Oregon fan, Florida fan, Georgia fan, Auburn fan, the Bo Nixes, the AR-15 had Heisman hype beginning of the season because they just thought he was a raw talent. I mean, the guy's 6'5", 230, runs in the low to mid 4s, and he's just raw. I mean, you have guys like the Jake Fromm, Stetson won a national championship. I mean, he doesn't get no Heisman love, but it's not kind of.
I don't want him to. The 1 week he did, that's the week right before we played Kent State. I don't want no Heisman love.
It's one of those guys who are.
He's terrible.
Guys who are, one of the guys I work with, he's like, man, when people say Georgia fans hate Stetson, them boys do because there's better talent possibly on the bench and in the gates waiting to play, depending on how quick they adapt and they grow, And then you guys also have a history of really big talent that transfers and kind of balls out a little bit with Jay Fields, and Easton was good in my opinion when he transferred a little bit. He had the talent a little bit.
He had a howitzer arm, but he had no touch at all. People think he was talented. That's why he kind of nothing in the league, you know what I'm saying?
Listen, I feel Georgia fans because I was there and I watched Easton lose to Vanderbilt Kirby's first year, and I don't think. Listen, I love it. I loved it. I was rooting for Georgia that day because I was just there with some Georgia fans. Shout out to Lee for getting me those 40-yard line tickets. But bro, I have never heard fewer people bark out of a stadium than I did that day, and it was so refreshing, dude. I was relaxed as hell that day.
My nephew, listen. 2017, when App State came to Georgia and Jacob Eason was our starting quarterback, the first 3 drives before he got hurt, we did not move the ball at all. We went 3 and out. My nephew played for that App State team, and he told me after the game, after we won, and we went to the Natty, he's like, you can thank us, Unc, for taking Jacob Eason out, because if Jake Fromm doesn't come in that game, I don't know what's going to happen in that game. I mean, maybe we win close. I don't know, but Jacob Eason just wasn't it, man. We lost Justin Fields. That was a mishandling of the situation. Since then,
Minor.
the said coaches have been rerouted to other teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did. We lost out on Justin Fields though. So.
All right, so overreaction, underreaction. The Clemson football program is now on the decline.
Overreaction.
Yeah, great overreaction.
I think we don't even really got to dive super deep into that one. It's overreaction. They're dealing with a little bit of, I think, summing it up for probably the guys. You can tell me if I'm wrong. They're going through a little bit of troubles on offense. I think front seven's still good. On paper, they're still a fantastic football team. Yeah, they lost some coaches. I feel like I don't feel like I expect Dabo to kind of, refill as accordingly over the next season or two. I think that this young cat they got coming up after DJ, I think Cade.
Cade Kublik.
Mm-hmm. They always recruit well. They always develop. They got a good program, good tradition, good culture. I think it's gonna be tougher. It's gonna be something like Dabo leaving to be like a big decline, or you kind of start seeing a loss of the locker room kind of thing. Clemson they're still gonna be a dominant program. They still are gonna do their thing. Dabo's a fantastic coach. Earlier in the show, I think Coach mentioned, I think Lane's kind of in the fold waiting for that Bama gig, man. But I think that contract with Clemson's a little spooky where it says, there's an Alabama clause in it. I think Dabo at some point, personally, I always have. I think Dabo ends up being the University of Alabama's head coach in the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think Clemson on the decline is an overreaction. I mean, if nothing else, they play in the ACC. They're not on the decline.
Okay.
They recruit better than everybody in the ACC, even on North Carolina State's best year. Pitt got them last year. I mean, we're talking about a 10-3 season for Clemson was a bad year. When you win double-digit games and that's a bad year, your program is not on the decline.
We're talking about a team that won a national championship. They've won two national championships
in the last 6 years. Yeah.
I mean, they
generational talent at quarterback that is proven to be molded.
They're going to be here as much as we don't want them to be.
That's the real decline. I think people are forgetting. I mean, we all know, all of us on this stream know how hard it is to find a good quarterback in college football nowadays. They had two generational talents back to back. I mean, do you know how hard that is to do to get Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence back to back? And then let's not forget, Taj Boyd was a freak too. He wasn't a generational talent, but
he got it started.
That dude was a dog.
Days and the early Sammy Watkins. I mean, they was nice.
Yeah.
They get bold. They get guys. I mean, think about it. They put in the last X amount of years. Deshaun obviously had his little bit of mishaps, which I don't think we really want to get into. But the football player, Deshaun Watson, is an absolute problem. He's going to get back in sync in Cleveland, and next year everybody's not going to talk about it because Deshaun's going to be out here hooping. They have T-Law in the fold, ETN in the fold, Sammy did his thing a little bit in the NFL. DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, Mike Williams, number 7 overall pick, coming from Lake Marion, South Carolina. Shout out to the Low Country.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, not Pinckney coming from Whale Branch. We got a couple of the guys, Bluffton alumni. Shout out to Jabril Robinson. That was one of the guys that was in school with me and Kobe and doing his thing. But man, Cubs is here to stay, dog. It's not we're like you said, Coach, we're worried about a team that lost 3 games, man. Come on, let's be.
They're about to win what? They won 6 straight ACC championships and probably about to win a 7 out of 8. Dabo.
Yeah, 8 under Dabo, but 7, they won 6 straight, and then Pitt won, and they're about to win it again.
That's crazy.
Isn't this what 8? Is it 7 or is it 8 10-win seasons straight?
8 is 8 10-win seasons straight.
8. Okay, I mean, come on, man.
And there's 7.
I can go a little farther.
It's their 7th playoff appearance since the playoffs started, and the playoffs only started like 9 or 10 years ago, bro.
That's what I'm saying. They've only missed the playoffs like 1 year, and that was last year. That's the last year. Was the only year they missed the playoffs is last year, and they won 10 games in the year they missed the playoffs. And one of those losses was to the national championship. Clemson is not going. We all either love them or hate them. If you hate them, sorry, they ain't going nowhere.
Definitely. I'm not even a fan of either team in South Carolina, be it from South Carolina, but I don't like Clemson. Like, Being in this state, bro. You either love them, don't have a problem with them, and you hate them. I hate them. I would prefer the Gamecocks over. Like that's just my personal opinion.
People don't like Clemson because of Dabo.
Clemson because I got the brand on. I had old ball coach head out to Carolina and being able to watch him as a kid because I lived here. And it was, a shorter drive.
As a Dog fan, we got a special kind of hate for Steve Spurrier.
Yeah.
But the old ball coach is that's my love for Carolina. But I don't got no problem. I cheer for Coastal whenever I can, man. I got a lot of love for the Low Country, even though I'm from Florida and my fandom resides in a different state. But man, I don't.
All right, so overreaction or not overreaction? DJ Uiagalelei needs to consider transferring.
No, absolutely not.
Listen,
I
don't think it's an overreaction. I don't think it's an underreaction. But I will tell you this: if DJ, I think they're making it in the playoffs because by default, I don't think anybody in ACC is beating them. If he should have a good showing, he has physical tools. I'm not saying he's going to be but if he has a good showing in the playoffs, possibly wins the first round, I don't know. But if he has a good showing in the playoffs, he could possibly get drafted. But if he comes back, Cade is a year older. Clemson has had this sort of succession plan with their quarterbacks. Either red shirt, 2 years you out, or you start as a freshman, 3 years you out. DJ's on his third year. It's hard, Dabo wasn't going to bench him this year, even after the Syracuse thing. Like, it was just a, hey, DJ, get your head straight kind of thing. But with a whole offseason, I don't know, dog. I mean,
if he loses the battle, he's got to go.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no! If he loses the quarterback battle, yeah, he's got to transfer. I mean, and we know Dabo's not afraid. Man, he left Kelly Bryant high and dry. And I don't blame him. Listen, man, this is a business. Because if Dabo doesn't win, he doesn't get paid. Like, and he's on the hot seat. Like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, I don't care if I've recruited you and told you whatever. If you ain't out there playing, bro, that ain't my problem. And if I got Trevor Lawrence or I got Cade Klubnik or whoever's behind him, man, guess what? If he's better than you better go sit there on the bench and hold this clipboard. That ain't my problem.
At this point in the game, man, as much as Clemson, preaches the family atmosphere and all that, if DJ is announced the starter in the spring, Cade Klubnik at that point is gone because he was okay with coming in being second for 1 year because he, that's the same thing Trevor started out as, he was second and he got the job because, he was there was a lot of gap between him and him and Kelly Bryant. Kelly Bryant was good, but Trevor was on another level. Like now DJ and Cade not so much, but Cade was under the impression, hey man, I'll come and sit for a year. DJ be gone because everybody had DJ, coming in this year or last year, supposed to be that guy. Now you say, all right, Cade, I need you to sit one more year. He like, wait a minute, bro. So now you can go get because they already got a commit for 2024. So
he's a stud too.
Yeah, and I was like, so now I got to battle this dude if he graduates early too? Like, nah, bro, I'm about to go to one of these teams whose quarterback is out the door.
Come to Auburn. I would love to have you at Auburn. Hit me up on the NIL deal, bro. I'll get you on the show.
Listen, bro, DJ was that guy who I think Oregon was like in his top 3 when he was considering it was Clemson, Oregon, like another school. I wanted him so bad. And when he chose Clemson, I was highly upset. If he decides to we would welcome you back with open arms, DJ. That's all I'm saying. You can reinvent yourself at Oregon like you were supposed to. You enjoyed the visit the first time. But we want DJ, let's come on, bro.
That would be a good move for DJ too. Like I think DJ would if he transferred go back west because I don't know how many of y'all know his parents. One of the reasons he had a lot of mental stuff going on last year to deal with his parents split up. You know what I'm saying? So last year during last season, so to go back to California to be near his family, Oregon's not too far. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson graduates. Chip Kelly might be on that phone.
Bruh, listen, it might not be a bad idea if he don't get those looks from the NFL. Go ahead and pull that. Especially if it's we don't know who the starter going to be. Like, if I'm DJ, I'm sitting down with Dabo like, yo, We just started spring practice. What's up? Am I the QB? I need you to come out and say that. Because if you don't, I might be hitting the wall. I might be hitting the road, baby.
Touching on with everything that you're saying, I think that Clemson does have the history of, like you were saying, with you come in, you sit a year, and then we're gonna play, and then if you start as a freshman, you're gonna do your 3 years, or if it's a crazy talent and he comes back for his senior year, hey, that's icing on the cake. But you're gonna lose another young guy that's out there in the fold, man. I think that the next quarterback they got coming in, he's another 5-star. We got another big name coming there. I'm looking at it right now because I wanted to remember his name because I've had a little bit of a memory loss tonight with some of these guys, and I don't want to say anything wrong for information for the viewers. But Christopher Vazina, number 22 in the nation, number 6 at his position. In the year, man, you got paid. It's gonna be one of those things like you're saying, man. If I'm DJ and I think about, let's put the pen to the paper, man. Let's be 100% realist here. What have I shown that builds me my draft stock? I got a ball in the playoffs if I make the playoffs because everybody's going to be watching. He's got the scouts at the games, man. He has the intangibles. And correct me if I'm wrong, he's like 6'4", 6'5". He's about 225, 230-pound frame. Mm-hmm. He's got the intangibles. I mean, we saw when he was coming out, the battles he had on the West Coast, St. John's Bosco, and
loved him at St. John's Bosco, man.
Him and JT used to battle.
All the guys that used to battle out there, and then you had, what's the big Vegas team?
You talking about Bishop Gorman?
Bishop Gorman, absolutely. So you have these guys that come out of those things, and then you expect them to hoop. I mean, he was one of the number one, prospects in the nation. I mean, we saw the video. Everybody saw the video. He was flat-footed, throwing the ball 70 yards in camp and doing his thing. I mean, he's a generational talent. He just got to put it together. If I'm him, to summarize it and get short, I'm gonna sit and have to talk with the coach, man. The guy who recruited me, the guy that I'm supposed to have taken the couple years to put into to develop me as a man and a football player. And I know they're very big on faith there and develop him as a Christian if that's his faith. I know he probably shared that bond with his coach, but gotta sit down and be real, man. You gotta have a real conversation. It might hurt some hearts. It might make you have a different phase of life you go into, but man, God opens doors for people when you don't expect it, and He shuts other doors. I think that sit and talk to the coach, man. If I'm your guy after spring training, cool. If I'm not, cool. I appreciate everything I've done over the years. If you think the better talent is sitting on me behind the bench, if you got respect for your university and you think you've accomplished what you can accomplish there and it's no longer your time, let's pass the torch to Cade, man. Let's let him do his thing, and then he's got to take on the mentor role for this young cat that's coming in, man. And if you think senior year transfer is kind of the thing, and you want to, I think he got an extra year eligibility because of the COVID year, correct? He has another 2 eligibility years.
Mm-hmm. He still got 2 years technically. Yep.
He technically does, man. He could kind of go use those 2 years, man. He can go, some programs that are going to be hiring a big time coach looking for a good transfer. Do I expect? I mean, shit. I'll talk about myself personally. Do I think that if he were to transfer, Ford will be involved? Why not? Why not? He'll be the biggest prospect we've had at quarterback since Driscoll, Will Greer.
I think Will Greer might have been a spot higher than
Will
Driscoll
Greer.
In their respective classes. I'm glad he transferred, by the way.
A laptop and some flu medicine screwed up my quarterback futures that were young, promising guys. I lost Cam Newton.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you for that.
I know, right?
Welcome. I mean, listen. I mean, I'm. It's one of those things that blows my mind. As a Florida fan, it blows your mind to think about. Look at the talent in the paper you had. You have the ESPN 30 for 30 in the fold with all the stuff with 81 and Chico Hernandez doing what he does, and you have, Riley Cooper. Riley Cooper was a dog in college, man, but he just had personal issues, and he got that NFL with things I don't agree with. We had the what ifs, man. You have Tebow years of you do your thing. Tebow's senior year, do the farewell tour. You got Cam in the flesh, and it's like that's another 3 natties in my opinion. But hey, stolen laptop stopped me from that, and then over-the-counter flu medicine at GNC kind of messed me up with Will Greer. Hey, we were looking clean going into LSU week, and then I know his dad's an old down south ball coach, and Coach Greer at Davidson Day in North Carolina, and man, it's tough, but I think that's kind of summarizes it for DJ, man. You got to play your part and know when.
I don't see DJ being the backup. Let's just say that.
DJ,
I do not see DJ ain't being the backup.
Dabo's not going to let the young cat who has the eligibility and who has shown flashes to walk over a guy that you already let him have close to. DJ's on close to 20-something starts?
Last year they played 13 games and they're 8-0 right now. 21 starts.
So he's
actually, I'm sorry, 23 starts to be exact because he started in the Notre Dame and the Boston College game the year before.
Exactly. And you giving this guy his chances to flash, and he did his thing, man. And you thank him and you appreciate what he gave your program, and you got to make the business side of the decision, like Blue said, man. And coach, you know how it goes, man. Times you had to. In your coaching career, I know you. I've never been a coach of anything besides my fantasy football team. We're 6-2. Let's go. I've never had to make decisions that kind of impact people and in the home life when they got to talk to their parents and say, I lost that job or I didn't do my thing. But at the end of the day, man, you know what? It's sports. Somebody's always gonna be better than you. Someone always is out there to take your job. It's a dog eat dog world. But that's why you play them, man. Because you go out there, you leave it all on the field. You go try to make it happen, man. And I wish the best of luck for DJ and whatever his future ends up being.
Yep.
All right. Last one, and I'm going to get y'all up out of here, right? Overreaction, not overreaction. Oklahoma fans should hit the panic button.
I'll tell you what, I do know an Oklahoma fan personally that has a YouTube channel, man, and he has said the people he knows in Norman are not happy at all. I don't think they should hit the panic button, though. Just because I don't think Brent Venables is Lincoln Riley, but I'm just saying, if you're going to be true to your hire, he's a totally different style coach than Lincoln Riley. So he has Lincoln Riley style players. He's got to get Brent Venables style players. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's a tough one when you paying people $8-9 million and stuff like that, though. You got to show up and show out, dog. We're giving you this check now. I think Oklahoma fans are definitely hitting the panic button, though, for real.
Blue, it's crazy because all four of us, and Blue, the reason why I say you is because it's something that's more so recent for you. It was recent for myself. It was recent for Kobe. And then, Coach knows what it's like. Did you see that, the first year you had Kirby, you didn't expect to come out there with previous coaching staff, and you had to weed out of those, man. Y'all were still competitive because y'all had a lot of talent, You came from a coach where you got
listen, man. Kirby just made up for that first year. He was terrible his first year. We lost to Tech and Vandy in the same year.
Yeah. Kobe he's got to build him a roster, but Blue's going through it. And I just had a season where a guy that was, we lost. We let a loss to Alabama by 3 after we lost to him by what? Was it 7 the year before?
Mm-hmm.
We lose to him by 7 the year before, and Kyle Trask played a hell of a game. Kyle Pitts, unicorn, played a hell of a game, and Dan Mullen folded and he gets fired. We start Anthony Richardson as a freshman and in a hostile environment against a team that goes on to win a national championship. I mean, it's into a new coach, man. I have high expects for Billy Napier and seeing what it's like to hopefully go through. And my man Blue's getting ready to go through him a new coaching carousel of wondering who's going to be the staff, man. Who's going to be that guy on the trail? Who's he gonna bring with him? Who's he gonna let go? But I will say, Blue, shout out to my boy Cadillac Williams, one of my favorite Buccaneers of all time. Big Tampa sports fan. Everything Tampa aside from the Rays because they don't even play in Tampa, and I'm a Cubs fan. So
I don't think you should hit the panic button, but you should go on Amazon, find where the panic button that you want to order is, put it in the cart, and insert all your card info, and have it on hold, just in case. Because because you got to look at this long term. He signed a giant contract for a long time. Right now, looking ahead, is their program in a better place moving forward in the next 3-4 years than Oklahoma State? Probably not. Is it better than Texas? Probably not. With when you were stepping in there.
What? Hold on. I get with you. The Oklahoma State wins 10 a year, regardless of who's playing on the field. Texas got 3 losses. Like, what are we talking about here?
2 of them came with the backup quarterback.
But this is the thing. This is the thing. Like Texas always finds a way to lose 5 games. So how are they in a better spot than Oklahoma?
They are moving forward. I don't see a lot of talent.
I just don't think Quinn Ewers is what everybody thinks he is. Like somebody asked if Quinn Ewers better than Shedeur, and I don't know if he is.
We'll throw Texas out right now. TCU and Kansas.
But this is the thing. Okay, this is why I say I don't know if you should hit the panic button. Again, you're changing styles. It's not as drastic as Jeff Collins trying to come in for Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech. But it's like Brent Venables wants to be a defensive oriented team. He literally has no guys that was built for that. And then if we hit the panic button, listen, I know a lot of these coaches having early success, like Dan Lanning is. Again, but it's the Pac-12, man. Like, let's be real about this, what they're actually doing. Oregon had more talent than anybody out there other than maybe USC on offense. If we hit the panic button on Kirby lost. Did you hear? We lost to Vandy and Georgia Tech in the same year, and neither one of those teams was good. If we hit the panic button, we don't get 2017. That's what I'm saying.
I didn't say fire them, but listen, next year,
nope.
You better be winning stuff. Bro, he got beat 49-0 by that Texas team that you said finds a way to lose 5 games.
Hey, we lost to Tech.
I think that
you don't feel it because you listen, man. I went to school when Kirby. I went to school when Kirby was there. Like, we don't lose. Listen, Jim Dunnan literally got fired for losing 3 straight times to Tech. You don't lose to Tech.
No, I feel you. But I'm saying, listen, in a few years now, Oklahoma is going to be headed over to the SEC,
and they're going to get dog walked the first 4 or 5 years.
Are you happy right now with the hire, the way it's looking to go to the SEC? I don't think so.
So okay, this is what I'm saying. I feel like Texas and Oklahoma are going to get dog walked when it comes to the SEC. So what? Yeah,
They don't play defense.
Which is why Brent Venables was hired, and he has to give a check. He hasn't even had a full recruiting class yet.
They're so used to scoring 50-something points a game because they got good receivers. They had Heisman-winning quarterbacks. They had an offensive scheme that was ridiculous. Lincoln Riley don't coach no defensive players.
You're right, and this is the thing too. You don't even think about that panic button. Tell me, since y'all keep up, tell me how many players Oklahoma lost in the transfer portal.
I didn't say buy it. I just said nowhere.
You should. That's why you shouldn't even The thing is, people, Oklahoma fans that want to hit it or want to buy the button, they had 2 unrealistic, just like Notre Dame fans, they had 2 unrealistic expectations considering where they started from. You can't lose 25 to 30 players in the portal and then think the guy's gonna win games, man. Like, you can't do that. Like, with who? No. With what quarterback? You bring in a guy who's kind of washed up from UCF? I mean, what we talking about here, man? Like,
I mean, even with the players they lost, are you good with Oklahoma sitting at 2-3 and sitting in the bottom half of the Big 12, tied with Kansas and Texas Tech right now, 1 game above West Virginia for second to last in the conference?
No, because it's the first year of his
given how he started, yes, because you can't lose that kind of people, dog. Like, the only reason why Lincoln Riley ain't going through that right now is because Caleb Williams and Jordan Addison all transferred in. Like, if Caleb Williams stays at Oklahoma, if he has that kind of quarterback, it's a different story. I'm telling you, it is. Like, dog, you can't lose that kind of talent and then still think you're gonna be 9-3 or 10-2. That's just not realistic. And if you think it's realistic, then you're not realistic about expectations of a coach. You're not.
I think he was fleeced. I think he was fleeced because the whole carousel went down with, hold on, what's going on with Spencer going to Carolina? You know, everybody didn't think that out of the blue. That was the biggest offseason storyline was, holy shit. Lincoln Riley really did Oklahoma like that, and he did it like with no remorse. My man got both of his houses sold in Oklahoma, and USC paid for certain the costs. He gave them boys. He put his family on the PJ and flew them out to LA. I mean, they were out here. They were like, bro, like, we're gonna, whatever it takes to get you out here, we're gonna do, because USC is one of the top jobs in college football, in my opinion. I think they have a blank check on the recruiting trail. They have the ability to dump all the money from boosters into facilities if need be. It's a great job. That's why I was always worried about back in the day. If Urban ever left and Urban was still doing his thing, if he went to USC, I thought Urban would have did his thing at USC if he didn't do the Ohio State thing or whatever it would have been. But USC is a great job, man. Lincoln played that whole thing right. He got the transfers, like you said, Coach. He had the plan, and the plan hit on A through Z.
He did, and it was the luck of the draw. Again, if he doesn't have Caleb Williams and he has the guy that plays for Ole Miss, I'm telling you, they got it. Yeah, they got it. Like Jackson's okay, but he ain't Caleb Williams. They got at least 3 losses right now. And right now, Brent Venables is still number 7 in recruiting. It's about the Jimmys and Joes. You tell me the dude can't recruit and he losing games, hit the panic button. But after losing that many people in the portal, man, like
what's the standard? What's the standard for you next year? Because for me, I just say you got to know where it is. And if they don't win next year, you got to hit the panic button next year because now the clock's ticking to compete moving forward in the SEC after next season. What's the record? Do you need 8-4, 9-3 next year? Like where do you need them?
If they can win 9 games next year, I think he's doing good. Again,
no, I agree. I think next year I need 9 wins, and if anything less, I'm worried.
I think it's tough though to say the 9.
I can go with it.
And flirting with that 9-10 win season, I feel like it's tough because Venables is getting ready to go through one of the first things that a lot of other guys are going to go through. There's 130 college football teams?
Yeah.
32, 122, 128, something like that. So how many of these guys are going to be going through a situation where you're a first-year coach, a year or 2 possibly before you're going to be joining a conference your program has never been involved in? You have no culture-rich history in, with teams that have been developed and have huge histories. Your Tennessees, your Auburns, your Floridas, your Bamas, your LSU. You have all these teams that are so program-rich already in the SEC, and you have to go coach somewhere where you had a crazy offseason thing happen to where you go into that job, and then you have to get your roster together, and it's Oklahoma. You have a blank check. Oklahoma's got money. I mean, it's the Sooners. I mean, they're literally one of the greatest programs to ever grace our college football world. I mean, they have all the NFL talent. They have all of the college talent. They have the big game wins. They have the national championships. They have the bowl games. They have the position trophy winners that you need to be where they are. But going into the SEC, man, and especially when you're trying to mold from playing your division's kind of style of talent and schemes and stuff, to where recruiting in their division, you can get by with being a top 20 class and still being able to produce on field and possibly be a 10-win team. And then you come play the big boys and you get dog walked in the college football playoff, as it's been since 2014. Now, do I think that the panic button is so surreal or this early? Absolutely not. Like you said, if he wasn't recruiting and he's losing these battles and he's also not winning any games, yeah, I think let's put it in the cart, in the Amazon card with all of our everything loaded, and let's get ready to press the Amazon Prime button. But I think it's early. I think that Venables has saved himself, especially with those things in his corner, to where he has a 2-year window from the beginning of next season to where Oklahoma can kind of flirt around. If there is a name out there that is bigger and they feel like dumping the buyout money into whatever it ends up being or something like that. Like if you're telling me right now, as the AD of Oklahoma, I have Venables, I'm getting ready to go to the SEC, and Mark Stoops calls me and says, hey, I want to interview.
But that's different. Mark Stoops one of the best.
Yeah, that's not happening either. Mark Stoops does not want any more. Does not want any
he left Kentucky and he went to Oklahoma and did his thing. In the event, I'm just saying the event. I'm not saying it's plausible or a thing. I'm just saying it's one of those situations you look at. If a bigger name coach who is more proven in more talent-rich conferences calls, I would take that opportunity over, oh, well, we gave this guy 2 years. Let's, kind of commit to him a little bit long-term. I think that it's a little early on the panic.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Blue. So, do you think they're going to beat West Virginia? 50-50?
Yeah, if I would say so. All right, this year.
Yeah, Oklahoma State, the Spencer Sanders is hurt.
I still that's still a 50-50 game even without Spencer Sanders. If Spencer Sanders comes back by then Oklahoma State.
If Spencer Sanders is 100%, I got Oklahoma State. What about Baylor? 50-50.
Where's the game at?
Norman.
50-50 then. If it was in Waco, I'd rob a Baylor because they beat Kansas like have
Yeah, and then
pretty good
last
last
game,
week.
the last game is Texas Tech. They already got 5 wins. If he goes 8-5, let's just say he wins 2 of those, lose 2 of those. He goes 8-5 his first year with what we already talked about. I'm like, what are we doing here? Yeah, he got boat raced by Texas, but Texas literally brought their whole team back, added 2 Bama transfers and Quinn Ewers. Whereas he had it. I don't even know the dude's name from UCF. The
Dylan
UCF.
Gabriel.
Yeah, come on, bro.
But it's kind of like the situation with Tech. I mean, even like let's take it to Auburn. Like everyone knows Auburn has talent, SEC talent, but it's not on the level of Georgia, Bama. But man, Coach, you've been in the rivalry. Even when Georgia didn't have the talent of some of those good Auburn teams, the expectation is to beat Auburn, beat Tech. When you're at Bama, the expectation is to beat Tennessee, beat Auburn, and even beat LSU to some point. At Florida, the expectation, regardless of the talent level, is to beat Florida State, beat LSU, and beat Georgia. And at Oregon, you've got to beat Oregon State every single year. And Washington's kind of like that weird rival where you've got to beat Washington regardless.
Picked up over the last decade.
Yeah.
That was probably the Kobe. I mean, that Washington when they were super competitive. That Washington.
Oh my God! Yeah, with John Ross and
they had John Ross, but then they had like hella good DBs too.
Man, that DB room was disgusting.
It was I think like all 4 of those dudes like went top 3 rounds.
They had like a streak under Jimmy Lake, who ended up not being a very good head coach. I mean, it was like 5 or 6 straight years while he was on the staff that they had like a top 3-round DB get drafted.
That DB was just like
who was oh man, I have to look.
Elijah Molden is one of them for sure. Elijah Molden ended up.
I don't remember their name. They was good though. They was really good.
That's the thing with I think Oklahoma.
Buddy who had the ACL injuries, but he went to Green Bay. What the hell was his name? Safety, not corner. It was a safety. He went to Green Bay. He was drafted like in the middle 2nd round, but he had an ACL. He had an ACL injury early in his career, and then it was one of those things like kind of a combine performance.
I don't remember his name. I just remember that DB room was ridiculous.
When it came to like the bottom of the helmet, it was
Hang on, I got y'all, bro. Because is this So we had Kyler Gordon, Trent McDuffie, Elijah Molden, Jordan Miller for the Falcons got drafted. Taylor Rapp from the Rams got drafted. Byron Murphy.
No, they was putting them out, bro.
Where did Byron Murphy go?
Sidney Jones, Buda Baker, Kevin King.
Buda Baker. I forgot about Buda
Marcus
Baker.
Peters, too.
Marcus Peters.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Bro, they was loaded, bro.
That's
Buda's top 5 in his position.
That's what I'm saying, bro. They had some dogs. But anyway, back to the thing is I think that's why Oklahoma fans are panicking is because, I mean, bro, what would happen if in Kirby's first year y'all went out there and got beat 49-0 by Florida or Tech, or Oregon this year with Lanning goes to Oregon State to end the season, even with the great year Lanning's had, and Oregon State beats Oregon 49-0.
That's the one that I'll give you. Like, you can't not score against your rival.
Yeah,
like you can get beat, but you can't not score. Like that's
especially
ridiculous.
Texas's defense, bro. Us 4. We could clone ourselves if we got 7 points. I really feel it. I'd hate to be on the street if we get in the end zone.
Coach, that early Kirby career year, it's one of those things where both of us, I don't think I expected it. I don't think you expected it. When we had the year, I think it was the year before Darius Lemons transferred, we had Matt Jones, I think LaMichael P. Ryan early, and then who was the other? Jordan Scarlett. Matt Jones come out there and we ran for like almost 300 on Georgia Halloween weekend like normal.
That was Kirby's first year. It was 2016. Kirby's lost to Florida twice. It was 2016 that year when I'm like, everybody knew you wasn't gonna pass the ball, but they still ran for like 1 billion yards. And then 2021.
I never saw Matt Jones.
But you know, the thing is, though, as Georgia fans, I can tell you, we didn't flip out about, even though we was mad during the game, like we was like furious during the game. Like, how can you not stop this? You know they're gonna run. But we wasn't like, it was like it's Georgia, Florida. We wasn't mad. Dog, when we lost to Vandy and Tech, we was like, yo.
I was at that Vandy game, bro, and I was in the season ticket holder section, bro. I rode with 3 Georgia fans to the game, bro. We drove from Athens, Georgia, to right outside of Atlanta, like Sugarloaf, like in Duluth, Georgia, bro. We drove from the stadium to their house. They didn't say a word for the entire drive. Like,
Listen,
bro, they
man.
didn't turn the music on. They didn't say a word. No one picked up their
And
phone.
it didn't hurt.
The window.
I mean, it didn't help his case that on 4th and short to try to get a first down to try to get the go-ahead score, he gives it to a 150-pound wide receiver on a reverse, true freshman. Like, we're like, what you doing, bro? Like, we just lost to both the smart schools on the schedule. Like, what we doing, man?
The dude bought me a Georgia shirt to wear. The dude bought me a Georgia shirt to wear for one game because I used to wear neutral colors. He was like, bro, we're playing Vandy. Just wear a Georgia shirt. He made me give it back to him after the game, and he told me I couldn't ever wear that shirt again to the game.
Hey, Kobe.
You just don't do those kind of things, dog. Hey, but he made up for the Vandy loss.
True.
He made up for it in 2017 by making it to the championship. He just made up for that Georgia Tech loss by winning the Natty. Like, that's the only way you can make up for a Georgia Tech loss is win the Natty. That's the only thing you can do. You can't erase it any other way other than to win the Natty.
Question for you. Is there any way that we can add one last segment real quick? Because I do want to hear from all 3 of you guys' fandom sides of it, because I definitely have had a blast talking to you fellas. It's been a blast. My first podcast experience being on the other side of it. Is there any way I can ask y'all one topic? And I want y'all's detailed sides of it.
Yeah.
As a fan for your ball team, who are the 3 young guys that you see the most potential in that you're looking forward and watching? Because I want to see it, because I know that on the Auburn, man, Blue, from your side of it, man, there's a lot of guys that you guys have come through that you know in the recruiting rankings. Those guys who flirt with that 4 or 5-star ranking, those linebackers that come in, that, I mean, I remember watching Noah in high school and his recruiting battle. I used to, whenever like that cycle of guys, but I honestly want to hear who you guys young guys are, especially from the Georgia fan who's been sitting pretty for the last couple of years on top 5 recruiting classes.
One of the three is somebody that's not playing. Yeah, he's a true freshman. If the transfer portal doesn't, you never know what the transfer portal gonna do. But yeah, Jaheim Singletary, he was like the number 2 or number 1 DB coming out. He was committed to Ohio State, and then we flipped him like 2 days before signing day or something like that. Like, I watched his high school tape, and that dude, like, he came in. Yeah, like he came in the summer, so Dalen Everett came in early. So Dalen Everett's a baller as well from IMG at corner. I think he had a lot more time to study the playbook, but I think if Jaheim Singletary stays, he'll win the Thorpe Award or at least be a semifinalist. Carson Beck next year. He was last year. Stetson's the guy. I like, Stetson does what he does. I'm good with that right now. But even with JT Daniels was on the staff the roster last year, Carson Beck's the best passer that we've had. Like, he is like Aaron Murray style passer. So, and even Todd Monken says if you want to see a true pocket passer, look at Carson Beck. So I'm interested. I know he's not young, but he's inexperienced. So I'm looking forward to what he has to do. And then probably Smile Munden. I mean, him and JDJ, like at that middle linebacker, Smile got a little injured, and that kind of set him back. But Smile got everything it takes to be successful on both levels. So
those are the dog, though, for y'all. Jesus Christ, that kid is so good.
Yeah, he is, though. But like, if you watch him in high school, he literally carried Jefferson County to like almost every win.
He played
offense and defense.
He played every position. I mean, he played quarterback, running back, wide receiver, linebacker. I feel like he played D tackle sometimes. I mean, he played everything.
He might even punt it one game. Like,
yeah,
that dude was amazing. But I think everybody's seen that talent on display with the other guys. It's kind of like you see a little bit with Smile, but you haven't seen the full potential. And nobody really, if you don't follow recruiting, you don't really know about Jaheim. But Jaheim, that dude is like an island type guy. Like, just put him on the island, he'll shut down half of the field. So I think that's what I'm looking for.
He was the next like the Okuda in the fold.
Facts.
The next guy that comes out, that Denzel Ward type.
Yeah, I was happy when Kirby flew. Kirby, he missed the pancake, dog. He'll flip him now.
Yeah. Blue, let's see some of that young talent, man. I know y'all got some. I mean, I know you guys typically float around with.
They might transfer. I don't know. That's why I laughed. Shit, we might have completely new young talent next year, depending on who's the coach. But I mean,
who you guys got in the fold for the trail this year, man?
They got a tight end. That's really good. Freshman tight end.
He's good. I think linebacker, if we can keep him, fingers crossed. He's a kid out of my hometown, out of Williamson, out of Mobile, man. Robert Woodyard. We flipped him from Bama last year, man. High 4-star kid. The dude, man, at linebacker is just an absolute monster, man. Already almost 250. And I mean, he had like 140 tackles, was a first team all-state selection at the 4A level, 200 plus tackles in his career, man. He just flies around to the football. And then there's a wide receiver, man, out of St. Thomas, Camden Brown, 6'3", 202, and probably runs like a low 4.3. Can just fly, and they won't throw him the football, bro. They threw him like one pass this year, and he took it for a touchdown last week.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Harsin.
Yeah, the kid is just an absolute monster, man. He was on the track team. He won three straight state titles. But yeah, last week against Arkansas was like his first chance to. He had one touchdown against LSU earlier this year. Last week he finally got the start. Was 4 for 83 yards and a touchdown in his first career start, man. And the kid is just different. And I just know with how good he's playing down the stretch, man, people are gonna be on the phone trying to get at him. And man, we ain't had a good wide receiver forever. I don't know.
The transfer portal is real, dog. That's why I say you got the transfer portal, one of your biggest rivals.
Yeah, and so those are the two young guys I would probably say on this year's team. Fingers crossed they stick around, man. But those two guys are dogs.
That wide receiver gonna be playing for Jackson State next year,
right?
It came to a battle between, but DeQuavius Sorry for you guys is a commit this year. I think him coming in, that kid can play ball. He can play ball. I don't think the rankings kind of go a lot side with it. He's sitting right inside like the top 300, but I think DeQuavius Sorry is talented.
We got his brother on the roster now, Xavier. Xavier is hella athletic too. I think it's taking him a little bit to get the playbook, but he's gonna be something too.
So I remember there was a lot of hype between Mabah, the interior D lineman you guys had. I mean,
yeah.
I know the ICC kind of hype behind him a little bit of like, is it going to be a little. What is it? He has intangibles, man. 6'5", like 315, I think is what he is, or maybe put on some weight or whatever. But I mean, you guys always have that stud D lineman or that front seven member. That's why I was interested to hear your opinion.
He's only played football for like a year and a half, man. He just got to get his his football IQ up, man. I mean, he has all the raw talent, but when you're playing behind Colby Wooden, all SEC caliber, you're playing behind Derek Hall, all SEC caliber,
he gave us hell.
Yeah, I mean, you just got too many good, like Auburn. One thing I can say about Auburn, always deep on the defensive line. If there's one position at Auburn you can always count on, it's running back and D-line. Those are the two positions. It doesn't matter. We could suck, but guess what? We're gonna have a Trey Mason, a Kerryon Johnson, a Cadillac Williams, a Tank Bigsby, Tank Bigsby right now. I apologize to his family. He should have went to Georgia.
Yeah. Well, listen, I thought when he hit the portal last year, before he recommitted to Auburn, I thought he was gonna come on home, dog, and I was mad.
He would dominate behind that Georgia offensive, bro. If Georgia would give him the football, he could rush for 2,000 yards behind Georgia's offensive line.
I want to address a comment. So Dante Moore wants to know what I feel about the Nugget flip. I wanted Nugget. I don't know. Nugget was good, but I thought Nugget made the best decision for him. There was two factors there. Nugget would have had to come in and be in the rotation at Georgia, and then he can come start at Jackson State and get coached by Prime, who's the best to ever do it. So I thought it was a good move for him. I wanted Nugget. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, but I don't think Nugget not coming, hurt us, and because we didn't get Nugget, but then we got Dalen Everett and Jaheim Singletary. So, I mean, I wasn't mad. I was disappointed because I like Nuggets film, but I wasn't.
And Keely Ringo. Who's a dog.
And Keely Ringo. And Keely Ringo is just he's just a redshirt sophomore technically, but I mean, I know he's going to the NFL. I mean, we got Kamari Lassiter, and I know Kamari Wilson is now regretting that decision to come to Gainesville instead of come to Athens. But I mean, I want him to come to Athens. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I thought he was a good corner, but I think he made the best decision for him. Like I say, you come in. It's kind of like Caleb Downs this year, the number one safety. We end up getting the number 2 safety, but it's like he's friends with Justice Haynes. They end up both going to Alabama, committing to Alabama. Caleb can come in and be one of the guys in the rotation at Georgia, or Alabama's safety battle is out this year. So Caleb can go start for Bama next year. I mean, it's just, hey, man, you got to play a numbers game when you're a recruit, dog. I'm going to be honest with you.
Touching on the three young guys for me, because I definitely want to hear, what's in the fold for Oregon with you guys always put together some talent too, but I think 3 young guys, for myself, which I think you might touch on because, Coach, I know that the Florida and the Georgia, we always got hats on the table, dog.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, man, if it's a Florida prospect or Georgia prospect, no matter where they're at, but sometimes we both end up being a top 5 team on the table. Kamari Wilson, man, I got high hopes for him. He started every game this season.
You think he's coming out of the portal?
Huh?
You don't think he's going into the portal?
I don't think so. I think he's got
if I ain't mistaken, I mean, I got to go back and check Twitter, but I'm almost. He wear number 26. He wear number 26. He already in the portal.
Stop it.
No, he's in the portal. He's in the portal, dog. No. That's what I was just saying. I say he's regretting it because it was down to Florida and Georgia, and I think some people in his camp wanted him to go to Florida more than Georgia. I think he wanted to go to Georgia. But, yeah, he wears number 26. He's already in the portal, bro.
I think that happened today?
No, it was like yesterday.
No,
he's in the portal, bro.
I think he's in the portal, though. Like it was a day. Okay, so what day did Brenton Cox get kicked off the team? It was the day after Brenton Cox got kicked off the team.
Brenton Cox got kicked off the team Monday?
So it was either Tuesday or Wednesday, yeah. Yeah. Kamari Wilson's in the portal, dog.
Yeah, because Nick Delatorre from I forgot where he works for, apparently he deleted everything off of Florida off his social media, but he hasn't officially announced he's in the portal.
I gotta find. I swear he put a post out on Twitter that said he was.
He in that portal, bro.
It was Kamar Wilcoxon left the football program a day ago.
No, yeah, Kamar Wilcoxon. He definitely committed. I've talked to bro before. I've actually played Fortnite with Kamar a couple times. I've chatted up with him on Facebook. I've slid through Gainesville and said what's up to him. We kind of chatted up a little bit. Him and DeJuan Black. Shout out to DeJuan Black. Talk about a kid who had a long
because Kamari Wilson wears number 5.
You got it. Yeah. 20. I remember seeing Kamari Will, and I was like, okay, this dude is already in the portal.
Kamari Wilcox, he left. That was a Mullen guy, and I remember having a conversation with him when it came back down to. I'm not trying to be that guy, but I got Twitter messages with Kamar talking about when Kirby sent guys to come to his house and recruit him and stuff, being a Georgia boy, and
that's how it is, though.
What he's done for, because he was kind of flirting with for a little bit. Kamar was actually flirting with going to Tech, closer to home, and doing that thing and kind of being that guy that had a little bit of recruit smoke behind. Kamari is a guy for me. Kamari Wilson, I think he was our big signing for Billy in the transition class. I got a lot of love for Etienne's little brother, man. I think he's got a high motor. I think he should be getting a hell of a lot more snaps than he gets right now. But Montrell Johnson, that followed Billy, is a dog, in my opinion. And I also got a lot of love for Osiris Torrance, man. That he's got a frame on him, man. He could be special.
Yeah.
Kobe, what are we looking at on the West Coast? I'm actually going to Oregon in December, man. I've actually been to Beaverton a couple times. I've been to Eugene a couple times.
It looks so beautiful there, man.
It's gorgeous, man. Going and seeing the headquarters of Nike and all that, and they just opened up, the Portland Adidas headquarters out there. My dad lives out in the West Coast, about 20 minutes outside. I'll be there for about 10 days in December, man. It's a beautiful part of the area. If you guys ever get a chance, please go and visit. It's gorgeous.
I'm going there next year.
For who we got? I want to see Todd Thompson at quarterback. I know, we had two 4-star quarterbacks. We lost one to Auburn. We kind of exchanged quarterbacks basically. We got Bo Nix, you got him. So now we got Ty Thompson, 6'4", 215. I'm excited to see what he has, especially after Bo Nix graduates. Seven McGee, who contributed for us. I think he was the top running back out of New York. I was very excited for him. I was so excited for him. I'm giving him DeAnthony Thomas comparisons, which in hindsight was not a great thing to do. But I was just very excited for him. But now he's talking about entering the transfer portal, and he keeps making up his. First he was like, okay, I'm in the transfer portal. Then he stayed. We convinced him to come back. Now he's back in the portal, and I don't know what's going on with that. But if he does leave, then Sean Dollars, who we got from Modern Day, he's had a lot of a 4-star running back. He's had a lot of injuries, but he's a dynamic running back when healthy. I would love to see what he can do in this offense. And last but not least, man, a 5-star guy we got, Justin Flo. When he's healthy, he's a freaking beast. Like, he racks up tackles, but he can't stay healthy. I can't see him and Noah Sewell on the field at the same time for long, and that just bothers me. So, those are my
They
guys,
played in the Georgia game.
Flo flirted around with both of our teams.
He did. I wanted Flo. I ain't gonna lie. I wanted Sewell and Flo really bad, and I actually think Sewell came down to Georgia and Oregon because I remember his dad saying it wouldn't be anything for him to go across the country. I think both of those guys. I actually did an Oregon preview with an Oregon guy, and I said those were coming into the season probably the best inside linebacker duo in the nation. I don't know if that's the same because, like you said, Justin Flo can't stay healthy. It's like he just.
Kobe, what's Connolly Jr., that big OT that you guys had?
Hey, fellas, I'm going to have to jump off right here. I appreciate y'all, man, tonight. Kobe, appreciate you for inviting me, dog. I had a blast with y'all, man. I'm getting carried away. I told my wife I was going to be on for an hour. Like, look at y'all. Y'all about to get me in trouble.
But,
hey, nice to meet you, Clark. That's your Clay. Nice to meet you, Clay. We might have to get you on, man. And always good to see you, Blue, man. Y'all have a good night, man.
All right, bro. Be safe. All right, yeah, you good. Actually, shoot, I ain't gonna lie. I gotta get to my girl too. I'm tripping. And I told her we was gonna be on for like an hour and some change, man. We going into 2 hours 30 minutes, bro.
It was a good chopping it up with y'all boys, man. I appreciate it, man. It was a good time being on the other side of the spectrum, man. It was nice to meet you, Blue and Kobe. It was a good time, getting back at it. I'd love to do it again. And Coach was good people, man. You could tell he's a coach, bro, just by talking to him, man. He's definitely would be one of those people I'd like to be able to sit down and chop it up with for hours. But 2.5 hours, man, is a long time, but I definitely appreciate it. Kobe, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the early shout out with the high praise. I just like watching sports, bro.
Thanks, man. Hey, Clay, this was a pleasure, man. I'm gonna be doing this going forward for the rest of the season. So even into the off season. So man, I'm glad that you were able to be a part of it. And I'm gonna have you back on, bro. You know that. So
if you want
we good.
If you want me to, I don't know how often you record and stuff, man. But if you want to have me on, man, I can make some time. If it's gonna be like once a week or whatever it is, man. I get off and I'm a little bit of a night owl, bro. I kind of stay up a little bit. I work all day, but I wound up standing up and kind of doing my little research and, follow my teams and watch a little bit of ball. But Blue, it's a pleasure to meet you, man. I got high hopes for you. I'm
always a pleasure, Blue. You know that.
Auburn thing. Got some insider talk, man. I want y'all boys both, if you ever get a chance to, you kind of want to check it out and see kind of what it's like, man. Please, please, please. I gotta give respect to people who got me in the podcast game. Big 3 roll up. Follow Ahmad Black on Twitter. Follow Uncle Silk. Follow a couple of the guys involved with that podcast. Big 3 roll up's pretty cool. They got a big party at the Florida Georgia game every year. They hang out and they're vibing, bro. Definitely if you get a chance to and you want to hear some of the insider knowledge, they got a lot of guys who are plugged in. They get all the scoop and all the recruiting games of guys, especially SEC ball for you, Blue. I mean, a lot of guys, they got some dudes who are plugged in with Auburn. They've branched out from just being Miami, FSU, Florida to they got a bunch of different Big 3 roll up. It is now, across to Oklahoma. It's gone to Miami. It's gone to, Clemson. It's branching out. It's getting big. But thank you, gentlemen. I definitely appreciate it. I'll definitely let you do it again.
No doubt. All right, man.
Absolutely.
Hey. What y'all said? Alcorn beat PV. Oh my God. Are y'all serious? What was the score? Somebody tell me the score. What was the score of that game, man? What was the score of that game? That's crazy. That's crazy. 23-6. Dang. In overtime. Are you kidding me? Wow. Boy, the swag is something. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, no, we're going to have to talk about this tomorrow. We got because we've been on here too late. We're going to have to talk about this tomorrow, but this is crazy. All right. Nah, this gives me a little bit of perspective. Thank y'all, man, for tuning in to the first FBS Friday. It ain't gonna be this long going forward, that I promise y'all. I ain't expecting it to be this long, but shout out to all those guys who were in here. They made this a great first show. And we're gonna be talking about everything FBS related on Fridays going forward. All the big storylines, everything like that. They gonna be sick in PV tonight. Yeah, I would be. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'd be sick right now. That's crazy. I bet Jarvie and Howard for Alcorn had a lot to do with that win too. But yeah, man, I love y'all. We gonna like I said, we're gonna talk about this tomorrow. I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all real for supporting me when this ain't even HBC related. But hey, I'm out. Peace.